We are off. I think we're off. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's so hard to tell. Because this thing has just decided to not stream today. It is streaming though. Yeah, we are streaming. My God, we're a little bit early. Because the Wi-Fi just went dead. The whole thing. We're in the middle of a storm here in Ireland. So the Wi-Fi just died 4 minutes before the stream started. So I started a little bit early to make sure it all works. Okay. That there's no problems here. It seems to be working though. I think it's all good. I hope. View on watch page. Right, here we go. It says the primary stream is bad though, so I don't know what way this is working out for you all. I'm just gonna wait and going to relax a minute till it all settles down and everything is actually streaming for me. It looks like it's streaming to me anyway. This end. I'll get to chat now in a second. Yes, I think we are streaming. Maybe. Chat's still loading for me. Hold on, chat's still loading. Okay, everybody can hear me and see me okay. Yeah, it looks okay. We're good. We're alright. Yay! This is good. Right, well, that was good timing because it is now 2 o'clock on election day. Well, actually, election day was yesterday. The count day is happening today for the elections. So if you're joining us, you can keep an eye on that. It looks like we're going to have what would be kind of termed like a split parliament, where nobody's going to have a majority over anybody else. Like the three top parties are going to be split pretty much evenly. Now that may not turn out by the end of the election. We might end up with one of them as actually a winner ahead of the other two. But it looks like Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin are now going to split the election basically down the middle. Which is going to drive us all insane for a while. There might even be another election. Because Sinn Féin haven't got enough candidates to actually get a majority in the first place. We've only got 40 candidates, need 80 seats. Stupid idea. Anyway, we're not here for the election. We're here to talk about reviewing cars and things, right? Storm Thingamajig, what was it called? Storm Kira, was it? I can't remember. Blew a gale last night. We had thunder and lightning. We had gale. We had huge downpours of rain. We've had them again today. There's a huge flood in Portlaoise, by the way. The N80 is entirely blocked, so don't go down there. There's floods all over the countryside in the Midlands, more or less, and the cat had to come in at 7 o'clock this morning, just like had enough and just came inside. So even the cat didn't want to do with it. Derek Norris is in the house here. Thanks, Derek Norris. Operator Hoot says he's going to miss the live show, but he'll try and join in later on. So that's good. I'm sorry, I'm watching out of the corner of my eye here. I'm watching my Twitter stream as well to see who's winning, who's losing at the moment. Ray Grace, hi Bob. VW estimates that it would take almost 125,000 kilometres of motoring before an electric Golf would have less impact than a diesel-powered Golf. That might be true and it might be false, but it's probably based on some kind of factual evidence, because even car companies don't just outright lie. You know, they don't just make it up. So they've based it on something. Most of these things that come out, they're based on some sort of a truth, but behind it all, they've manipulated how the numbers work so they can sell more of something over the other, right? So they're kind of right in that diesel fuel, ICE engine cars, and the diesel and petrol, particularly diesel, per weight, if you look at the weight of diesel or to look at the energy level of diesel, you get more energy from a small amount of diesel than you do from a small battery. Right? When we can run our electric cars on 3 AA's, you know what I mean? Then you're kind of going, wow, that's an amazing amount of power. Right now, we're running them on like a ton, an extra ton of electric battery cells underneath the car. This is very heavy stuff. So weight is going to be a problem. And I still believe electric cars have a great future if people would stop reviewing them as if they're the only future. They aren't. And no matter what way you do it, no matter who you talk to, most of the people who are doing the commenting are terribly uneducated, or only educated from one single perspective or one single source, and they're not really open to other sources around the edge of it. So generally they're misinformed. They're not thick or anything, they're just misinformed. They're just not opening their mind. You got to question everything. There was a great woman, if anyone watching the Tommy Tiernan show last night, there was a woman on from one of the statistics office in Dublin, which is the military one. And she said you got to question everything. And she put it very well in that she was talking about how do you know that information. So when someone tells you a piece of information, ask them back, how do you know that? How did you find out that information? And the answer should be fairly clear. But Ray, there is a point. I suppose there's a tipping point, depending on how you measure a car, as to whether it's negative CO2, positive CO2, or whether it's gone that route that far. A quick reminder as well, this goes out as a podcast. And if you're joining me as a podcast, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. I do a little intro to it and a little outro to it, but that's basically all I do to the Sunday service. I put it up as a podcast, so it's available on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on something else that I can't pronounce the name of, and it's on something else as well. And it's also on Podbean, where you can find it there. That's the place I actually upload it to. And Podbean costs a fortune per year and has to be up for renewal very soon. So very few podcast hosts will host anything over 2 hours. Most of them only want to talk to you if you've got like an hour or so. But I am in negotiations with another podcast host at the moment, an Irish one, so we'll see how that goes. Zelenko's here. Come on, Zelenko, glad to hear you. John Carney, hi Bob, good afternoon everyone. Watching from Thurles today instead of Portlaoise. Hope everyone survives. Kira, okay? It's Kira, yeah, of course, Storm Kira. God, Kira. There's another girl called Kira that I've dealt with recently. Why is that? Why did I deal with a girl called Kira? Can't remember. Anyway, whoever that is. Chris Dolan retracted his message. That's how you retract stuff. 77 of you watching already. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. I second that Tommy Turfmold. Who's Tommy Turfmold? Oh yeah, sorry, I missed one. My God, Andy McAfee is here as well. Tommy Turfmold. Hi Bob, really enjoyed your presentation at Athlone. Thank you very much. My son is looking at buying a 2008 Accord Petrol S-Type. Any issues you need to be aware of? 2008 car. Well, first of all, write the condition of the car, irrespective of the brand, irrespective of being a Honda or an Accord or what kind of engine's in it, the condition of the actual car. So 2008 makes the car 12 years old, okay? So in that 12 years, what service has it done? What has it worked as? What did people use it? Was it a family vehicle? Was it chances are it wasn't. Accords tend to have been sold to people who were on the road a lot, high mileage types. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but the stuff you're going to be looking out for here is just general easygoing wear and tear. So rubber seals, water in the boot, water ingress anywhere around the engine bay, so the bonnet lid, general filth and dirt, any sort of oil that's dripping out of it or dropping out of it anywhere on site. If you can't explain it, when you've done a test drive, you come back and there's a little drip of oil somewhere. If you can't explain it, don't just write it off as, well, okay. There should be zero oil, there should be zero marks of oil, and the oil should be generally clean at all times when you're on it. Oil is an awful thing to destroy your engine so quickly. Smoke, is there any sort of anything other than steam coming out of the back of the car, particularly if it's a petrol car? You should see nothing, okay? Nothing. No grey, no black, no blue, none of that sort of stuff. Blue is generally a sign that it's burning the oil inside the engine, so the engine's actually cooking the oil. That's an oddball thing. You can put in a heavier duty oil, it will stop that cooking thing, but it won't stop it forever. Blue smoke. So black smoke then is the actual piston rings that are melting. They're starting to burn. As the pistons are going up down, they're not getting a proper amount of lubrication and they're actually starting to cook. That cook is causing corrosion. That corrosion is a build-up of, it's like cordite. It's like when you shoot a gun, the black stuff that's left in the barrel behind is the same thing as those pistons going up and down. And you get black smoke out of the exhaust. Steam out of the exhaust is perfectly normal. A reasonable amount of steam. It shouldn't go on forever. Once the car reaches temperature, that steam should go away. That's really it. After that, there's nothing particularly about a Honda Accord or that engine or anything else that you're looking out for. Just see that the timing belt has been done. It's got a good service history. Everything's working okay. Every switch in the car works when you press it. Every window opens. Every window closes. The seals are good. I've seen people go on test drives, lads who know what they're really doing, and they bring watering cans with them. And they put someone inside the car and they pour a watering can over all of the windows to see if they're leaking. Because you know what, that smell of damp inside a car is absolutely ferocious once it gets in. It's very hard to get rid of it. So if any water gets inside the car and starts a well and sits there, and you won't even see it, like on a test drive, you've got your shoes on, you don't feel it on the carpet, and just watch all that sort of stuff. It's an unusual sort of a car to get as well, but remember it is 18 years old, so be careful of that one. John Carney seconds the turf mold and says, great talk, very interesting, well researched. Thank you very much, you're very kind. It's a talk I did a couple of weeks ago was it a month ago now? I can't remember. God, this time is moving so fast. Anyway, a little while ago in Athlone I did an electric car seminar where I got to stand on stage and just say anything I wanted to say about electric cars. It was a good little turnout for it as well, and it was streamed live here on YouTube. You can watch it. Now, I have had an offer to do that again for multiple outlets. It's currently under negotiation. I also recorded a podcast the other day for Aviva, which is talking about second-hand cars. That'll be coming out. If you're an Aviva customer, you'll get that by email, but it'll be coming out through the Aviva website, I think. Interesting enough, sat down with a woman called Kate who wants to buy a new car and was asking me like basic questions of what she needs to do to go to dealerships and what she's looking for and stuff. So really nicely researched thing. Recorded out in a great place in Bray, beautiful place. I'm going to be doing a few more of those podcasts out there as well. So there's a bit of a podcast future coming in what I'm doing right now. But it'll always be here in the Sunday service. That's not going away. Andy McPhee's keeping you all in check, isn't he? Yes, he is. He's a good man. He's the man for the job. I know you've been tweeting me and texting me and things, Andy, on Facebook. There's so many messages. I can't get to them all. There's too many messages at the moment. It's just, there's messages coming from every time I upload a video, it's like a million messages appear after that. And then, you know, they come out on social media everywhere. Now, of course, today we have the election happen as well, and people ask me questions about that. Eric Rochard's here. Come on, Eric Rochard. Good to have you. Comments on every video. Mick Mulcahy. Thank you, Mick. Mark O'Reilly, thank you. Mo AV, hello there, Bob. What do you think of abbreviated subscribers, good or bad? It doesn't really bother me. I never really did this for subscriber level. I only ever really did this for the independence of the whole thing. So I don't really care whether it says 50k or 45k or whatever it says on the side. I really mind as long as it's going upwards. The level of subscribers doesn't really bother me. It's whether it's going up or leveled off or going down is what you really got to worry about. Because if it's going down, people are leaving you. If it's consistently going up, then people are still joining. And that's, you know, that's kind of the nice way out of it. But it'd be lovely to have the difference. Like when you go over 50,000 subscribers, there's a different metric that happens to your channel. And that's a big thing. That's within YouTube. It has nothing to do with you guys or me. Right? It's nothing I can do about it. But once it tips over 50, YouTube algorithm pays more attention to you and you get more traffic. It's like the tipping point of traffic. So I'm getting there. I need another 5,000 subscribers or so, which is hard fought. Honest to God, it grows at about 500 or 600 subscribers a month. That's the way it's running right now. It'd be nice if I got a little boost of 2,000 or 3,000. But once you get to the point of 100,000 subscribers, then the metric changes again. You actually get someone in YouTube. I can't contact anybody in YouTube if I have a problem. Put it that way, right? I don't have an email address of someone in YouTube. I don't have a contact or anything in YouTube. So I have no way of getting in touch with YouTube. If this channel was broke tomorrow, I have nothing I can do about it. So it's pretty hard to kind of get that level of stuff. But it'd be nice to get a lot more subscribers. If I got over 50,000, it would change the conversation entirely. And would mean I could trim off on doing t-shirts or something, you know. It'd be something you kind of think, right, well, there's enough subscribers that I can just do it from the ads and not worry about it. But that'd be nice. So anybody who can subscribe or, you know, support the channel in some way would be great. Just hit the subscribe button down below. Click the bell as well. That does work now. I did actually get YouTube to fix my bell finally. Jay Redmond, thanks Jay Redmond. Alan Burke is here. Eric Rocher streaming fine, good. Peter Cupid. Is your real name Cupid? Just wondering. Niall Burke. Greetings from Windy Tip. It's windy here in Portlaoise. The sky goes blue and then it goes black. And then it rains, then the sky goes blue again. It's just this crazy sort of wild weather today. It's really good though. Tomorrow I'm driving something really super secret and I can't talk about it till the 30th of March. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not good at that sort of secret thing. I always break embargoes and everything. I'm useless at these jokes. If you don't put in red letters at the top, embargo till 12 p.m. As soon as you send me the press release, I'll tweet about it. But the drive tomorrow, what can I say? Nothing, really. It's a camouflage drive. It's not finished. I haven't seen it and I don't know the name of it. But anyway, that's tomorrow. Worry about that then. Let's see if I can tweet something. No, I can't. I can't tweet anything, but I can probably tweet where I am or something. That's about it, really. John Carney says, hear you loud and clear, thanks. Patrick Duffy, there's Patrick Duffy. Hello Patrick Duffy, I'll be seeing you next week sometime, won't I? Alan Burke, looks like Shariah Féin did well. Yeah, it's Sinn Féin. And the reason, there's a good reason. I know there's a lot of hatred for Sinn Féin. There's also a lot of hatred for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. These are two opposing parties, by the way. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael were created after the uprising, 1916 uprising, in through the next section of the country here to get a government. They were always meant to be opposing parties. They were never meant to be on the same side. We've had them now since 2016 on the same side, two cheeks of the same arse, is the way they're described. So no matter which one you elect, you're going to get the same policies. People want a change. People want something different. And what's happening right now is they don't want to vote Labour because Labour betrayed them when they got into government. They betrayed the general public. The Greens, some of their policies are wild. I mean, just stupid stuff. Just anti-industry, anti-everything. We'd lose so much of our employment if we elected a Green Party in. Independence, useless. We have whip politics. If you elect an independent person, you're at nothing. You have done nothing to help. They're no good unless they're in a party. Look at Stephen Donnelly, for that matter. Everybody elected him. He romped home on his own party thing as an independent. He got in. And then what happened? He went over to Fianna Fáil because he couldn't get anywhere as a backbencher or as an independent. So he joined a party. And now it looks like he might just barely scrape the home run in his home category. So the problem is, if you don't want Fianna Fáil and you don't want Fine Gael because they're the same party, and you don't want to elect Labour because they betrayed everything that Labour existed for over all the years, what are you left with? Sinn Féin. That's it. That's your only party. No matter what happens in the history, you're only left with them. So they are gathering momentum, but they can't take power because they've only got 40 candidates. It requires 82 or 83 seats of a majority to get into government. But they could partner up with Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, one or the other, and become a new party. They could partner up with somebody else. They have to gather 40 odd seats to get a majority and become in there. Now, I don't know what that's going to mean for us, but you know, they're still subject to EU law. They're still subject to our own laws here. So I can't see your comment, Alan Burke, being helpful, really. Vote for who you want. It's not a first past the post system, but it does look like Sinn Féin are going to take leash offly here, as Brian Stanley has been elected every year for a good few years now, and he's actually a good guy. If you take away the Sinn Féin bit of it for a minute, he's available by phone anytime you want him. If you have a problem, you just email him and he'll come straight back to you with answers. He's very, very proactive with the people, and that's what Sinn Féin are good at. They are mopping up the young person's vote. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are constantly looking for people over 65, and it's the hard part of the day, boys. This part here, you reap what you sow when you go out there for 4 or 5 years living it up as a politician. I've had multiple offers to go and take local town council seats and go as a TD and stuff, and you go, no thanks. no thanks. I don't really get any abuse right now. I can't imagine the level of abuse that would land on me the minute you stick your head above the parapet as a politician. Marty O says, afternoon all from the emergency department of Mater Hospital, only here for the 13 hours. What's happened after happening, Marty O? Tell us. Mater Hospital in a 13 hours. Why were you in 13 hours? Last time we went, my wife had an appendicitis a while ago, and we went to Portlaoise A&E, and we were there waiting to be seen for about 40 minutes. So that's, if you go to Dublin ones, though, it goes on forever and ever and ever. Now, she did spend a night on a trolley, but we were seen very quickly, so it can get that way. Moya V, how do you gain an invitation to press event, e.g. St. Leon Unveil? Okay, so how do you get that? First of all, those world premiere things tend to be established journalists already, or established outlets in some way. So generally speaking, you make contact with your local person. So the local one that is in charge of, say it Ireland. So they're in Liffey Valley here in Ireland. You make contact with them. You go, this is my publication. This is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to do. And then if Say It Ireland will be given a certain amount of seats. So they don't just bring everybody. They bring like 4 to 6 people on these trips, and they're chosen because of their outlets. They're chosen because of their reach, because of their abilities, because of the kind of journalists they are as well. So it's very few of those kind of fluffy journalists, the ones who come on and go, wow, it's the great car, and next week it's another great car. And those kind of people, they don't tend to last very long in this business. It's people who have a critical mass. People who can stand there and talk one-to-one with the actual exterior designer of the car. That's the kind of person that gets chosen with those kind of things. It can be difficult. to get that far. Your first step, of course, is to start reviewing cars. That's the most important part. But to get to things like unveilings or world premieres, tomorrow I'm driving a disguised car. Camouflage is not even out, not even spoken about as to what the car is yet. And a few weeks' time I'm going to world premiere the Caddy and stuff. So, but that's taken me, don't forget, that's 10 years of doing what I do on this. So it's not like that happened overnight or anything. That took a long time. Mark Turner Smith is here, windy and stormy UK, exactly the same here. We're depositing our excess wind in your direction. That's what's happening there. Mini eggs. Go man, mini eggs. Hi Bob, is wireless CarPlay getting any better? Not really, no. See, you've got a number of dynamic things happening in wireless CarPlay. One is you've got the phone itself. So the phone tells the car, I have CarPlay. Or I am Android, Apple, Android Auto. And the car then has to transmit back to say, I will accept this wirelessly. And the two of them get together. But if there's any interference of any kind between that car and the CarPlay, then it breaks down, falls apart. Far better off with wired CarPlay, but unfortunately that does charge your phone consistently. But phone companies assure me that you never actually charge your phone to 100%, and it is quite safe to leave your phone plugged in forever if you want to. It's up to you. So now, but no, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, particularly in BMW circles, seems to have big problems. BMW wants you to download a BMW app to run nearly anything on the car. The BMW system is actually brilliant. I am driving the best car in the world at the moment, the BMW 330D. Is it D? It is 330D with a 3-litre diesel in a state form, and it's the best. I would buy it in a heartbeat. No problem. There you are. 3-litre diesel. See, I'm not all electric, lads. I'm not all diesel either. J. Redmond. Do the Shinners want to ban petrol and diesel cars? No. Well, that's a government policy. They're not in government. They don't have a choice in that one. I don't think it would be their top priority. The top priority that people had on doorsteps was health and security, which is the two things that I said we should be talking about as well, is health and security. So security is crime levels. Now, I'm not talking about getting the army out to defend the country or something. I'm talking about crime levels and stuff, and improving the general lot of Garda Síochána as well, in order to put more of them on the road and equip them with better, more up-to-date equipment and more up-to-date technology, which would be really good for them and would improve our security measures. If morale was better within the Garda, you'd have more chance of enforcement. So there's a bit of that going on. And the other one was, of course, health. We spend billions per year on health, and we're building the most expensive children's hospital on earth in Dublin. God knows why we had to build it in Dublin, but it's in Dublin, which means when one of your kids gets sick, you're going to have to put up with the traffic of Dublin to get there. Chris Dolan says, brilliant stuff, thanks very much. Moe V, the weather is terrible in the UK with strong wind and heavy rain. Same here. And it's gone blue out there now. All of a sudden it looks like a summer's day. Richard Cullen is an incredibly generous person. Thank you very much, Richard Cullen. He has supported the channel using Super Chat. So it pops up here in the middle of it, right in the centre. That didn't pop up on top of my screen like it normally does. Sorry, Richard, I was delayed there in getting to that one. And so many of you have supported by PayPal and Patreon, and multiple other ways. It's been absolutely brilliant. I am buying some new camera kit. I'm hoping to buy some second-hand stuff, of course. You know I always try and buy second-hand wherever possible. I hate the idea of someone building me something brand new to use it. There is actually, I was requested last week for a wish list, which I think now has appeared in the comments down below. It's very expensive, right? So don't go mad for yourself there. But it is actually down below in the comments as far as I know. Amazon shopping, I think it's under something like that. I forget now. I thought I was put it in there somewhere. It's supposed to come up the whole time. Oh yeah, it's on videos, not necessarily on the Sunday Service Show, but it's there if you want to look at it as a wish list of stuff. It's a Sony 6300 is what I was thinking of getting for the next camera. Moving away from Canon, which could be dangerous, but I like the results of the video footage from it. It looks really good. A few other bits and pieces as well, like wireless mics and stuff, just to make sure I have enough of them. My drone is getting a bit old. I didn't put a new drone on that list, but my drone is getting a bit old at this stage. It's just got a lot of miles on it. Moev says, what was your first car and your advice for us viewers on the car? So my first press car, if memory serves, was a Renault Grand Scenic, I think. It may have been, it was a number of Renaults. I know it was Renault first. And then Fiat came next. and then Alpha came after that. And then it just kind of snowballed. Once you kind of get in the door with one place, a lot of other places want to pay attention to you as well. It's not as much anymore. Back then they were not desperate, but back then there was a hard time back then for people to try and get a hold of cars. And there was quite a few cars and not many journalists. You have to remember, I was the first new journalist along in years. Like the first new one that wasn't established journalist somewhere else. I didn't come from a newspaper or something. I came from the internet, and that might as well be coming from space. And that was 2010. So I was landing among people who were already like, 69, 70 years old and had been writing for newspapers their whole life. And suddenly I land out of nowhere with press cars. So it was a weird thing to get a hold of some of these cars, and I was very appreciative of it. But immediately, as soon as I got the press cars, I became really critical of the whole thing. So some of the companies didn't like the idea of this new guy who, was suddenly able to review cars in a video, something totally different. It was very different at the time. Very few of us doing it. There was nobody in Ireland doing it at the time, just me. And it was a TV show, and that was pretty much the only thing that happened. And then I got then all the other press cars started coming in. It's like a blur for years. I couldn't tell you how many cars I've driven. Thousands at this stage. It's got to be. Between international trips and national trips and different variations on models and stuff. I mean, I've driven enough cars that I know I've driven at least 2 models of the Ford Focus and 3 models of the Golf. So it doesn't take very long for it all to kind of get going. But the first car was a Renault Grand Scenic, I think. If you wanted to start reviewing cars, you can. Nothing stopping you. There wouldn't be much of a press fleet at the moment. So if you're not established, it's very hard to get established. You'll have to find a way. You can't just ring up and go, give us a press car for a week, because you just find out what's your outlet. And if your outlet is something like a free sheet, what's that one I've seen recently in Tesco's? It's called The Finest, I think, or something like that. I don't know. I met the guy before who publishes it. But if that's your outlet, that's just a free sheet. It's just a thing going free. It ends up, and I know there's nothing wrong with free sheets. They're mostly full of advertising, but there's nothing particularly wrong with it. But if that's your only outlet, it's a tough sell, try and get press cards from it. What I did was I started a website. I went to a local dealership here in the town, Downey's, and any other dealership who listened to me, and just got an end of a car, took a couple of pictures of it, second-hand cars, and put them up online. And then I set out to make a video, and I videoed my own car with an old DV camera, shit cameras, rubbish yoke, no mic input or nothing. I was very windy and swooshy and stuff. But I filmed it, and I thought, okay, I can do this. I can figure this out. I need to get audio sorted, but I need to figure this out. It'll be okay. So I bought a different camera, a Canon 500D. Really, it would be basically 720p video recording on it now. Good camera out of that. And then started making videos. And that's really where it all started. Just figured it out. I remember taping with duct tape a camera to the windscreen of a car with a sort of a sucker pad, like a I can't even explain what I did with the sucker pad. Just stuck a sucker pad to the window and taped the camera to it. And that's how I filmed the first one. So now, that's how to get started. Jim Dunn. Afternoon, everyone. For Jim, the bus driver. Come on, Jim. Let's keep this forum political free zone. I'm sick to the teeth of elections the past few weeks. Love the new Ford Puma. So do I. Ford Puma is one. I'm really looking forward to driving that in Ireland as well. If it even is remotely like the one I was driving overseas, it's going to be gorgeous. A lovely little car. Very clever. I love the boot. The boot was the best part, I think, actually, in fairness to it. There's a trunk thing in a boot. It's called a mega box, I think it's called. That's not a euphemism for anything. It's just a big box in the boot. And they gave me this as the mega bag. It's a Ford Puma mega bag. Did I even open it? Oh, it's empty. The kids must have opened it. No, it's not quite empty, but it's nearly there. Little sleep things, earplugs for the Spanish people on the plane. By the way, if you're a Spanish old woman and you're on a plane, can you stop talking? It's really annoying. It really is. That constant stream of vowels that just comes out of Spanish people's mouths is really, really hard to put up with for a long 2 hours when you're stuck. Like, they're beside your head, and it's they're talking to one another. It's just this constant stream of noise. But yeah, the Puma is lovely. Just skip forward. Sorry, come back up now. Johnny Dub is here. Hi, Johnny. How are you? You coming to another meet at some point, Johnny Dub? Because I know you're at the the information, Eden, the seminar night. I know you're at that. But the lads point out we're having a bit of fun with you because you're on camera during the break. Irish Foxhound 1. Hi Bob and chat. Is there any point of doing an engine remap on a 4-year-old motor? Depends on what you want. Have you not got enough power? So an engine remap can do a number of things. You can get more horsepower. That's generally what people are after. So if you've got 150, you might be able to get 200 by remapping, right? But more horsepower on its own isn't necessarily a good thing. Some people want more compression, so they want to get more torque. Essentially, if you get 200 torque, pounds-foot of torque, or torques, as Clarkson christened it, 200 torques, you can get 250 torques when you remap and stuff. So other stuff goes up, but also the stress on the engine can go up quite a bit as well. So if you really go for the max, and you drive it to the max, you will shorten the lifespan of that car quite a bit. I remember a fella remapping in Drogheda sent me a picture of after remap, and he'd done it, and then he put up in a rolling road, and all was well until a piston hit the top of the head of the car and lifted the head up a little bit. So that didn't turn out so well. But that's what happens. Sometimes you're just under so much pressure. But yeah, there was no problem getting a remap done. You could do it, but what do you want to do it for? Do you really want to make more noise or go faster? Or what's the purpose behind a remap before you get the remap done? Most people just do it because they can, and then they ruin it and they can't fix it. Surprised I have power. I didn't have Wi-Fi. It went off a little while ago. I had to reset everything. At 10 to 2 it went off. I thought, oh no, I'll have to stream from a 3G phone. It's not going to work. It's not going to work around here. Portlaoise has there's lots of blank spots here because we have a maximum security prison in the town, and every once in a while they shut down all their communications for the whole bleeding town. Honest Truth says, hi Bob, how are you doing, mate? I'm fine, not a bother. Over your cold yet? Yes, I am. Niall from New York. Oh, right, from New York. You must be up late or early. Is it early or late? Very early over there. That's what it is. I am fine. I'm back to normal now pretty much. Still feel a bit snotty and bogged up, but I think that's just the time of the year. Brian Cullinan says, hi Bob, are you going to Geneva? If so, what are you looking forward to seeing? I'm not, I don't think. I'm not sure there's any, if you were going to, one time to go to a motor show was brilliant, right? See, years ago, we went to Geneva, I went to Paris, I've been to Frankfurt Motor Show, I've been to loads of motor shows. Now, if you're going for something specifically, usually to talk to a human being that you can't get to talk to online, right? So if you're going to interview somebody about something, then going to a motor show is really good. Or if there's a very exciting release, like in the Frankfurt Motor Show I went to earlier last year, it was the ID3 launch, right? So that was something that's very different. But I don't think Geneva's going to have it'll have updates and it'll have some new stuff. But I don't know if it's going to have anything that's going to punch you between the two eyes as being really new. Unless Volkswagen stick the ID4 into it, which I don't think they will. I'd say they'll hang on to that till the Frankfurt Motor Show against the German cars tend to be supported very well in the German motor shows, as Paris tends to. When you walk into the Paris Motor Show, the first thing you walk into is one of the French suppliers. I don't know if Geneva's going to have any of that sort of stuff. So it's a bit different. But like, if you've never been to a car show, Geneva's the best one to go to because the airport is at the car show. You can get off the plane, walk to the car show, do the loop, walk back to the plane and go home on the same day. So Geneva's pretty good like that. But generally speaking, unless I was going to interview the head of product planning for something or other, and speaking one-to-one, then you go to motor shows. Other than that, right now, the way YouTube is, the way the online features are, you can be closer to the action sitting here watching YouTube stream than you can at the show. Often it's a big elbow. You got to stick your elbows out. You know, you've seen it there if you came along to, or you were watching a live stream from the SEAT thing. You've seen the kind of crowd that was around me, and then you get up to go to the car and they're crowd around you again. So it can be quite hard to get your elbows out and start moving in around things. So sometimes it's better to just sit at home and watch it, even as a journalist, because you can sit there in your underpants and just go, God, that car's ugly, isn't it? Mini Eggs. Are you going to test Renault Clio soon? Please look out for CarPlay. Turn directions on the driver's display. Cheers. Yeah, I'll have a look. I do have Renault Clio in my diary. I did attempt to book the Renault Clio as early as I could, but Renault had already booked it out to multiple other journalists. As I've said before, I'm not sure Renault Ireland particularly like my style of reviews, and so I don't have it until the 16th of March. Now, That's when I pick it up. Patrick's Day is the 17th of March. So it'll be the 16th of March before I actually drive a Clio. I did try and book it as early as I possibly could, as soon as it appeared on my list to be able to book. I did, but it's not in the remote near future for me. So I'll review it when I get there, and I'll give you my direct opinion on it, as always. We'll see what happens. I don't advise ever buying any car until I've reviewed it. Funny enough, the reviews that are coming out right now are pretty bland. Most people are saying the interior's very cheap looking, and that the sat nav and stuff isn't great on it. But Renault's, in fairness, Renault's interface has always been rubbish. It really has. It was the worst part of all of Renault cars, was the interface between the human and actually trying to hook up your Bluetooth, right? That sort of stuff was just rubbish. Always was. I don't think it's really improved that greatly or gotten any worse. But the interior, now this is what I'm here from. I haven't driven it, so I'm hearing from other journalists. The interior is very cheap, as is the capture. Mr. Sin, when will you review the electric Mini? Whenever to get one over here. Am I supposed to go to something electric Mini? There's an electric Mini coming up soon. I just don't remember when. Not for just for like a launch or something. I'm going to launch the Audi A3 anyway. Do you know what? I don't know. There's definitely a launch coming up soon with electric Mini in it, and I've just forgotten when it is. So yeah, I will be driving it soon enough. Daniel Teledega, I can't pronounce the last name. Hi Bob, I'm in a market for a Mercedes E220 AMG spec 2014. What's your opinion on it? Good car. Are you going AMG line or actual AMG? That's a good question. I'd say it's just the AMG line. The suspension is a bit firmer on the AMG one and can be a tiny bit crashy over speed bumps. But generally speaking, any of the Mercedes cars, particularly the E-Class, is this beautiful thing. And I tell you what you do, look out for a double glazing one. There is ones out there in that year that came with double glazing on the windows. It's hardly noticeable, but you will notice it at speed on a road when a car overtakes you. They definitely silence on the outside. I actually have a video from around that era, of an E-Class coming from Tullamore to Portlaoise, and it's total silence of the car. Beautiful thing. Beautiful yoke. But yes, they're a lovely car. Just the AMG gets different suspension, different seats, and I think that's about it really. Maybe different steering wheel or something. Not a whole lot more. Brian Morris says YouTube are impossible to communicate with. You're absolutely correct. YouTube is now it is a monstrous industry. But really, they're only interested in people like Jack Black or Casey Neistat. And that's where their interest is. This kind of this very viral person in the background. I don't have to think much about. But it's, for me, I'm quite small in that respect, and I kind of like it that way because I don't attract too many lunatics. Like Peter Cupid says that's his real name. There you go, Peter Cupid's real name is Peter Cupid. Congratulations, that's a great name to have. That must start multiple conversations for you when you introduce yourself to anybody. Instantly, it's like, hello, my name is Peter Cupid. Cupid, that's a cool name. Instantly. Checking my email, I'm sure no one else is doing it. Kevin McCarthy, no, not Kevin McCarthy's not first. When someone else has to support me there by PayPal. Eric Rochford, you're a kind man. Eric Rochford has supported by PayPal using the links down below. PayPal.com/Bob Flavin. Or BobFlav@thenextgear.com if you don't fancy clicking on anything. You can go there and do that. The super secret drive, is it EV or ICE? I have no idea. They're not telling me. They're just telling me it's a super secret drive and it's camouflaged and I can't talk about it. And I can't even mention the brand name that's doing it. But it is here in Ireland, so there will be camouflage cars for here in Ireland. I can't even tell you where it is. I can't even say where. Anyway, that's weird. I don't really do these camouflage because I don't think camouflage drives are they're a way for a car company for me to sit down and go, the suspension's too hard, something's wrong, this is wrong, that's wrong, and they get all my information as a journalist. And you have to remember, being a journalist, and we are on that topic, how you can get test cars and things. I've driven thousands of cars, quite long distances, so I have a very educated rear end. I've sat in multiple seats and steering wheels, and you touch and feel multiple things. So a lot of times journalists are brought along on these press trips on any press trip to kind of sit in and go, what do you think of? And you look at the stuff and you go, the suspension's too hard, the seat's too hard, there's not enough support in the left, the lateral doesn't work, the shoulder line is not right, the A pillar's too big, the B pillar's too wide, or all these kind of little details that go into making your car. So by the time the car comes out, I have had a little bit of influence over it, tiny bit of influence over it. If the electric drive is better, or the ICE engine's working, or the PHEV one is the one I like, or whatever it is, they do take it all on board and kind of amalgamate it and get an average response from everybody, and then work out what the car looks like. And then they ask another group of people, and that group of people completely change their mind again. So it can happen. Kevin McCarthy, hi Bob. I was on to you 2 weeks ago about my 320 diesel BMW with a broken timing chain guide. Oh yeah, I remember. Because my car has full service history with BMW, they were replacing the chain with a €500 contribution. See, it's always worth asking, isn't it? It's always worth asking the question as to whether it can be done or can't be done. Generally speaking, if you have a service history with main BMW, they are very good about coming back and fixing things like that. It's only when it's sketchy. It's only when the car has been imported and it came in through this sketchy area, that sketchy, then they kind of go, nah, not doing anything with that. But if you're straight with them and you've been straight with them with your service history, they'll generally look after that sort of stuff as well, because it should have been fixed. But it's great because you're going to get £500 contribution to the changeover is very good. It means you get £500 off your service. I like it. That's the way to do it. Hang on. Need a drink. That cat that adopted us tends to do this retching thing. You know the way they spit up a little ball of hatred. So you get fired out every once in a while. Kevin McCarthy, they wanted €1,000, but I negotiated down to 500. Oh yeah, good man. That's it. See, now you've got everything you need now to get your car all sorted and back on the road again. I'm glad that's working out for you. Generally speaking, what people do right now is to get the thing fixed and then to sell it. Once it goes wrong once, you just want to get rid of it. People are weird at that. Once the car starts to go wrong, they instantly want to get rid of it. That's what happens every time. Darn Gem says, how's everybody? How's things, Bob? Great. I have to compliment you on your brilliant burn of the bloke harping on about your lighting on the S-tier review. Sheer class, buddy. Thanks, Darn. No problem at all. That happens a lot. People will come on to a review and they go, the camera's too shaky, the lights aren't bright enough, you didn't film it this way, that way. But they're only comparing what they see. So if you look at Car Wow, Matt Watson, or you look at Fully Charged or something, these guys spend thousands on every video. The budgets are there. They get cameramen, they get lighting, they get engineers, they have time. They spend all day filming a single car, driving around and putting lads on the side of the road. They've got all the time in the world, and they have 2 or even 3 or 4 people working on those videos. And in the case of someone like Car Wow, they've got maybe 8 or 9 people in the office who deal with the metrics behind the videos, who hashtag them, who promote them, who go to Google, who get all that stuff. That's why they gain traction very, very quickly, because they get a lot of funding. And then they come and watch my video and go, oh, that was a great video, but I wish you would put more audio on or put more light in. And you kind of go, it's just me. I'm the only one doing this stuff. I do the work of all of that. So I set the camera up, I set the mic up, I set the lighting up, I set everything up, record the piece, stand in front of the camera, take it away, edit the whole lot, put it up online, hashtag it, answer all your questions. That's just me doing all that. And I've done that for about 10 years. Not complaining at all. I'm fine with it. But it's cool to be answered. But one of the guys who came on to the Ford Focus ST once says it was too dark to see in the boot, and I left a link to my PayPal account so he can afford that I can get crew next time with a lighting rig, because it was very windy as well. I couldn't have put a lighting rig up anyway. Andy McAfee's answer someone else's question. Yeah, good job, Gianni. I can't pronounce your name at all. Gianni Hinku or something. Hellhound. Hey up, Bob from Yorkshire. Southerners have been in a panic about this so-called storm. See, weaklings. They all live in cities these days. Up here, a bloke over the road put his coat on to walk the dog. It's like that here as well. Everyone in Dublin's going, oh, the storm. But everyone in the Midlands is like, it's fine. It's just a bit wind. It'll be grand. In that Irish way of saying things, just gotta be grand. Don't worry about it. Mark Daly says Sinn Féin won't ban petrol and diesel cars. They will ban all the black and tan coloured cars though. I like it. Irish people have a very long memory when it comes to the actions of others. I've seen multiple people who start out as nice chaps. They get elected into an office of the TD, And then they instantly garner all of the hatred from everyone in the whole world on top of them. They start off nice and then they go completely badly wrong. I'm not sure Sinn Féin stands for what Sinn Féin always stood for. I don't know if that still exists. They're doing an incredible job in their social media, in how they approach things, in the comments that are being put up for them. They're using Pierce O'Doherty, and they're using the leader, Mary Lou MacDonald, as very good spokespeople about what's happening in the world. And they do comment on a lot of the things that are populist to comment on, like the way car insurance, for instance, was one of the things they commented on recently. They did a bloody great job at doing it. And it's look where they are now. And people are dying for change. People want Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to change. They need an opposition. You need someone on the other side of the house. By the way, the Irish Parliament is far older than the English Parliament. But anyway, you need someone on the far side of the house who is opposing what the government is doing, who's given an alternative view. You need it there, and it's not there now. There's no one on the other side, because everything Fine Gael want to do, Fianna Fáil go, well, due to compliance, we're going to say you can allow do that. And they've murdered the farmers. They've murdered. They went. What do you call them? Varadkar there went after people on the dole. He went after refugees. He went after everything that he could possibly go after, and now he's after the hospitals and the HSE, and people just going, no, that's enough, not doing any more of it. And so I don't blame them, to be honest with you, to look for someone different. Still, I'm answering questions from I don't know how far back now. Still scrolling on through them. Hold on a second. 2:20 p.m. So I'm like 15 minutes behind. I'm sorry. I do try and get all the questions as much as I can. Anthony Morrissey going to Geneva Motor Show in March. Good man. That's good for you. Any idea how one gets access to the Ferrari stand? Tried in Paris a few years ago. Was politely turned away. Something along the lines of you have to ask. Kind of, yeah. You have to be on the list. You can go onto the stand. Well, if you go on the press day, you can go onto the stand all you bleeding want. But you have to register as press for that one. To get into the back of the stand, which you're talking about, to get in around the back and into the reception area and stuff, you'd have to register a Ferrari directly. They send out invites. It's the same for their press launches and stuff. They tell you who's going to what launch and where it's going to be, and then you're on the list. You know what I mean? So it's not something that you ever control. I'm not on Ferrari's radar by a mile, right? Same for McLaren, same for the rest of them. I don't go after them. I've never tried, because it's not a car that's ever going to sell much here in Ireland, so I never bothered with it because we don't have a dealership. My attention will turn to Porsche this year probably. I'll go to Porsche UK and test a couple of their cars, because there is Porsches on sale. There is a Porsche dealership in Dublin, so I will go over and pay more attention to Porsche maybe. Plus I like that brand. It's a good idea. But if you're looking to get on just to go for Ferrari stuff, you know, rocking up in a Ferrari jacket is probably the one thing to get you turned away quickest. Register as a press outlet. Get your press pass and go along on a press day, and often you get way more access to stuff as a press journalist. You get a big different thing around your neck. Mark Turner Smith, this is of course, we're talking about, it is election day, counting day, it's happening at the moment, so it is kind of getting that way. Mark Turner Smith says, thing with Sinn Féin, rightly or wrongly, is still a party I automatically think of as old IRA connections. Apologies that wades into something of a difficult political subject. Doesn't really. Everybody in Ireland was part IRA at one point. If you go far enough back, basically everybody's granddad was in it, but it was a different thing. The one that you're probably thinking of is the 70s IRA, which would be a different story entirely. There was the Troubles. A different kind of organisation at that point. I'm afraid of what I'm saying on YouTube, because YouTube little metric thing will be looking at me now going, he's doing with that sort of stuff. But in America, the IRA is actually a pension, I think. Isn't it? Some sort of pension scheme or other? Johnny, Bob, give me that Puma bag. There's not much in it. It just says mega bag on the front of it. I don't know. There was stuff in it. There's a toothbrush. Everyone want a toothbrush? There's a bamboo toothbrush. That's in it. And there was a little phone charger thingamajig, which is gone. Obviously, the kids have taken that. There's a little sleep tight eyes thing for airplanes, and some ear defenders. That's it. Just a little bag thing. I suppose stick it in your luggage carry-all. You can have it, Johnny, if you want it. It's okay. My wife is gesticulating at me, telling me she'd like to make me a cup of coffee. I think that's what you were saying, wasn't it? Jose 9000 says, hey Bob, we should VW warranty cover broken camera, not by me, should VW warranty cover a broken camera, not by me, on windshield for light assist? This is behind the windshield, so this is not a camera on the exterior of the car for reversing or anything. Was rejected for warranty, but feel hard done by as the camera is buried in the car, not easy got at. That would be unusual now, Jose, for that to be broken. Obviously, it's a car cover broken camera. So this is a camera that looks forward and turns on the headlights for you and turns on maybe wipers or something in behind the windscreen. Now, warranty is, you have to remember what warranty is. So warranty covers something that has gone wrong in manufacturing or gone wrong because of a fault in VW, right? So if the camera was working and then it took a bump from the inside or something happened on the inside that they can say, well, look, it was something the user broke that in some way or another, then that's not a warranty issue. On the flip side of that, if the camera just stopped working one day, then it needs to be repaired. It's pretty straightforward. Now, if they rejected it for warranty, they would have given you a reason for reject. Okay, so they would have said, we're not covered under a warranty because the part that wears out, it's a part that you broke, it's a part that we don't cater for, or whatever it is. They will have given you a reason. I need to know that reason before I comment any further. But you never know. Mark Daly says, "Hi Bob, really enjoyed your seminar in Athlone." Thank you very much, Mark, for coming along. You're very kind. Well worth going to see. Thank you. On the topic of remaps, I've remapped my 09 SsangYong, the two S's, always catch me, Rodius. You've remapped the SsangYong Rodius. Right, go on, continue. I'm listening. 2.7 litre 5-cylinder Merc diesel engine. It's been a beast since. I'm sure it has. SsangYong Rodius, though. Do people look and point and stare at you when you're driving by in that thing? Just wondering. Just like it's an amazingly looking weird car. Rare is hence that's a good old engine, that car. Those old Merc 5-cylinders, don't do this. Will burn chip fat. Don't do that. It can burn chip fat though if you want to. If you strain out all the heavy stuff and just pour it in instead of diesel, it will literally burn that. They're big old engines, those jokes. You want it to smell like a chip shop, but don't do it. It's also illegal, I think. I think Revenue want their share of money off you if you make fuel from chip fat. Brian Morrissey, do all SsangYong cars have Mercedes engines? Currently, I think they still do. I think they had an agreement with Mercedes at that point. They always, definitely in the past, all had Mercedes engines, which was actually one of their downfalls as well, because it wasn't good enough. The engine just wasn't designed for the work it was being carried out on, and SsangYongs ended up all as taxis. And if you go far enough back, you find some of the older, weirder SsangYongs back into the 90s, which are very strange, came with Mercedes engines and constantly were blowing head gaskets and stuff, so they weren't great. Adrian Mick, just left it at that. Mick, haven't got any further. Currently sat Peugeot E208 doing a range test, have my lunch, not looking good, 130-ish miles. I'm not surprised. Hardly any of the cars do the miles, electric cars, do the miles, the actual miles that they say, or even remotely near it. Very dependent on your speed, wind conditions, and weight inside the car. So, like passengers, drastically reduced range. Headwinds. I noticed driving back from Galway one night in a Hyundai Kona, we lost, just evaporated 80 kilometres that didn't exist because of a headwind. You know, Galway is a very long straight road, so it was really terrible miles to be pushed on. But 130-ish miles from the E208, it's not deadly now, is it? Jim Dunn says, Bob, I had a drive in a Hyundai Ioniq recently, and its infotainment came with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay as standard. That's correct. However, when I hooked it up, it was subscription only. How mean is that? I know the subscription stuff, and I know BMW doing it as well, where you have to pay the car company a subscription to use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. That's crazy. That will just stop people using it. You're crazy. There's Dave Humphreys in the comments. Dave Humphreys is a very accomplished motoring journalist right here in Ireland. You should follow him. He's all over Instagram and Twitter, and does really good room tours on the trips that I accompany him on. We have different rooms, but yes, he's very good. So Dave is there. You'll find Dave Humphreys a complete car. He also does a Sunday Business Post, and he does various other multiple outlet stuff all over the world. Check him out. He's there anyway. Hi, Dave. Anthony Daly said, he's talking to someone else. Brian Morrissey says, have you ever been down to the New Bridge yet? It's important. Oh, the New Bridge. I thought New Bridge, a bleeding town. I thought, yeah, it's only up the road. But no, the New Bridge, I haven't actually been down there yet. The New Ross Bypass, I haven't been that far. Must make that trip. Damn, and I had the car for it. Yeah, I had the BMW 3 Series. My wife was going, yeah, thumbs up. Because we like a road trip. We like a drive, a day out in the car. A day out now. We'll have to take a day out Goes in a flask and everything. She made a little flask and everything. Just, because the Sunday service lasts another hour and 10 minutes. But we'll have to take a road trip down that new bridge and have the 320D, or 330D, sorry, 330. Here we go with the trees. I say tree in a fierce weird way. Well, according to the internet, every time I do a BMW 3 Series review, everybody writes TREE below it. My most commented thing, TREE. Ocean Froggies here. Afternoon, Bob. Any fresh thoughts on the update for the VW ID3 Ireland pricing net of grants? No, still waiting to see what they're going to do with that. ID3 and ID4. Volkswagen are touting it to be a game changer. That kind of game changer way that they go on about. That it will ease into the sales of things like Tesla Model 3, all the Kias and the Hyundais and all that sort of stuff's out there as well. I do believe them, to be honest with you. ID3 is a fairly remarkable looking car from the outside. So you'll know, when you see it, you'll identify instantly that is a Volkswagen and that is a car that you desire. Now, they have a bit of work to do on the interior plastics. It is still a little bit plastic on the inside, but that's kind of the way, if you like the Seat Leon, when that was launched, same thing, same sort of kind of plasticky thing, but the ID3 had a slightly more brittle version of it. So really looking forward to the launch of the car. It's been delayed a little bit, so the launch has gone back a small bit, but we'll get there. We'll see if it comes up and we have a good proper test on it. Johnny Dub has been very generous there on Super Chat. Thank you very much. Few shekels towards the cause. Nice one for the bag. Thank you. Anytime. I'll bring it with me. Next time we're on some sort of... Just remind me when I'm doing some other talk or other, and we're hooking up at some point. Let me know and you can have that mega bag or whatever's in it as well. I didn't use anything in it, I don't think. Who knows? But it's a cool little bag. It'd make a good little... It's got a little handle on the top of it. It would do as a good little kind of... a bag you could use for travel. Pricing of ID3. Remember, the Volkswagen do have their own bank. They are in control of their own interest rates. Currently... there is, not currently, but it is coming very soon. Seat have 0% finance PCP on their range of cars, which is pretty good, and they're giving like €1,000 to €1,500 off the cars as a benefit to you as well. So there is good benefit that's coming from Volkswagen Bank. So Volkswagen are totally in control of their bank and their interest rates, which is going to benefit you when it comes to ID3. And Volkswagen is also opening up their own power unit. So they will be supplying you electricity into your house and home chargers as well. So there's a lot going on for a car company to now be a supplier of electricity and charge points. Mark Turner Smith taking on the Mini BMW announced this week. The new Mini being delayed for another 2 years at least, with question marks over the Cowley Oxford is going to struggle now with quite an old design. It is, and I tell you, the problem is that BMW and Mini stand alone, kind of, on their own. You know what I mean? They're not hooked up. They sell a lot of their stuff. BMW sell a lot of engines and they sell a lot of gearboxes and stuff from their own products, but they don't really have an agreement with any other major companies that can support them money wise. So if they're going to invent something new, they have to do it all on their own, and it makes it difficult because we all thought the electric Mini was going to be brilliant, something we could really look forward to and go, yeah, this is deadly. And then they come out with this kind of, I would nearly closely say compliance car, very close, just to say, well, we have an electric car, and the Mini's ideal for it. Like Smart have some really good cars that are coming with electric. Whether they're going to come out in Ireland is another thing entirely. MG have their cars in. I think we'll see a retreat of MG very soon as the market settles down into what's happening there. But it's difficult for BMW and particularly Mini, who are trading from Britain. I was in the Oxford plant. We did a whole tour of the thing. We drove cars all over the place. But it's a very difficult place for Mini to be. They have a very high priced small car, but it's actually big inside. It's great fun, but nobody really wants a fun car like that. People want something that's very efficient, affordable, nice, prestigious. It's very hard to fill all those little gaps without pilfering from BMW's own customer base. Like I drove the BMW 1 M35 135M the other day, and it's really good, great car, but it won't sell a bean. It's not what people want. I don't think it looks much the nicest looking of all the 1 Series I've ever driven, but I don't think it's going to sell that many cars because people are just moving away from that sort of car. They're looking at small SUVs. Anyway, Fee says, I'm placing a bet that camo car will be a Skoda, and if it's a Skoda, a Mark IV Octavia. You can imagine that if it was just a new VRS, it would be too early for that maybe. Don't know. I can't say. I'm embargoed. Ocean Froggy. Sinn Féin enjoying great success. Heard it said that they may kill the economy, kneecap jobs, and beat FDI out of the country. Change is coming. Don't know if that's all going to happen. We'll see. IRA in the US stands for Individual Retirement Account. See, I knew it. I knew it was a retirement policy thing because I've seen some guy tweeted at me one night going, "This is the IRA in America," and it was like a picture of a retirement thingamajig. So yeah, IRA is a retirement policy. Mini eggs. I got on the Ferrari stand last year. Dress smart, arrive early on weekday, ask politely, and get turned away. Then go back towards the end of the day when a stand is squared. You might get lucky. You can. You know. At least you can go in and do something with them. There's always a way on to stand somehow. Generally speaking, if you have a press pass, you'll be accepted to go in pretty much anywhere. Now, some of the things, what happens is on the press days, they often open all the cars, not just the Ferrari cars, but all the cars. But you will have to prove that you're a press person. You will have to have an outlet. If you're not the editor of the outlet or the owner of the outlet, you will have to get probably a letter. Sometimes you get a letter from the editor or the owner of the outlet. So you can't just kind of create a blog today and then go be pressed tomorrow. It doesn't quite work out. So if you really want to get the press pass, you need to attach yourself to some sort of an outlet or other. And that can be quite daunting and very difficult to do. Because even I don't give out my outlets as press passes. Depends what they're looking for. I generally just link to my YouTube account. That's it. And there you go. You can see me there. Colin Whelan. The unmissable sound of a kettle going on. That's true. The kettle was on. I do have my... This is from... Where the hell is this thing? Oh, Bridgestone Drive Guard. I was on a trip for Bridgestone one time and they gave me this cup and I never looked back. Ever since it's been my go-to cup. One thing is, it's too big to fit into most of the coffee machines. So, like, I've tried not to use cups that you get in coffee machines because they're full of plastic. They don't biodegrade. You know, a lot of them aren't compostable. So the interior of them has a coating of plastic in it to make them so they don't disintegrate in your hand. And so I always try and bring my own cup, but it often doesn't fit. So it's a problem. Mystic Morris, what's your spirit animal? Don't think I've ever been asked that in my entire life. I have no idea. What's a spirit animal? I know, like in the American Indian sense, a spirit animal would be like a bear or a wolf or some sort of strength thing. But my spirit animal is much more likely to be a tortoise or something where I just lie down and go to sleep. Very lazy. Very lazy. I prefer laziness to activity. Then I like to be really active for a big burst of activity. Then I stop again. Like, I love an old doze in the afternoons. Any other man over 40 here, it's got to be one of those guys who every once in a while, like an old man, will sit down on the couch to watch something on telly, turn on the F1 or something, and then it's like, gone. I love it. You wake up 20 minutes later feeling brilliant. You know, it's great. Take on the whole world. So I don't know what my spirit animal is. I haven't a clue, Mystic Morris. Pick one for me and make it that. Florin, hello. What's your opinion on the 1.5 TSI with ACT? So the 1.5 TSI had a problem. This is the Volkswagen engine, right? So it's a Volkswagen. It's in Skodas and Seats and Volkswagens. It's in Audis as well as in all of them. They used to make a 1.4 TSI, which was an absolutely outstanding engine. Brilliant engine. Something happened to that engine because they changed it to 1.5 and it started getting this kangarooing effect. So during shutdown, so when you're driving along, you come up to traffic lights and you stop, the engine shuts down. And as it shuts down, when it restarts, there seems to be, I think there's a fuel injection problem. And it causes this sort of a hesitation when the car won't go forward, and then it does go forward. And you get this idea of kangarooing forward, right? There's been court cases, there's been a software effort, there's been updates, there's been things going on. So just make sure that all that's after happening before you get near it. The engine itself is fine. There just seems to be some sort of a software conflict with the hardware inside the engine about how much fuel goes in. Because fuel these days is not just kind of poured into the cylinder, compressed and then exploded. Now it's misted in this very fine little mist that goes in. So just enough fuel goes in to create the explosion to cause the compression and do all that stuff. So it's this difference in fuel or something that's after happening between the two that's causing the problem. And they're updating with software. You can do nothing with hardware. If there's something wrong with the injectors, that's always going to be wrong. But you can play with the software behind it. But it's a great engine. Just make sure it's had a recall, that it's had a software update, it's had everything else. Otherwise, you start that kangarooing effect. Just very annoying. Mark Daly. By the way, the 1 litre stuff that Skoda have in their little Skoda Rapid and all is a great engine. Real fizz. It's in the Octavia. It's in a few other cars as well. Brilliant little engine. Really good. I've no idea how they got so much horsepower out of a little tiny 1 litre. That after hopping forward, I mean, everything's very much. Anyway, Mark Daly says they absolutely stare and laugh at the Rodius. I'm also asked how many kids I have. The answer is none. I'm 23 years old and single and not going to change. Do you know that's a great car for a 23-year-old single chap. It is though, because you could go on a date, or you could pretend to be a taxi, or you could convert it back and lie down in the middle. Because the Rodius is kind of funny. It has seats on both sides, and the centre bit you can walk through the centre bit. There's an American chap on YouTube actually uses a Rodius. I think it's a Rodius. He uses to live in tiny homes. Now, look up tiny homes on YouTube. You see millions of YouTube videos, and it's fascinating stuff how people compact their life into a little tiny camper van thing. But there's a Rodius guy. I'm sure I've seen him, a Rodius fella driving around. But they're really oddball car, SsangYong Rodius now. But indestructible engine, you have the right engine. That any of the rest of the Mercedes units that went into that car weren't great, if I'm honest. Just check my email. I'm sure no one else is screaming at me looking for stuff. And we're good. Yes, that's more. Yes, there's more. We've got more. Who's this now? Jim Dunn. You're a generous man, Jim Dunn. Thank you very much. See, I don't get the Instagram ones or the PayPal ones until I've opened my email. And John Coleman. You're very generous people out there today. You really are. It must be February. A payday has passed, which is really good. That's all going to go towards new equipment, new camera equipment. I'm definitely after some Sony equipment, I think. I was actually thinking about buying an iPhone 10 because it's almost as good a camera as some of the normal cameras out there. Problem is, it's not adaptable. You can only kind of use it in that mojo, the mobile journalist stuff. You could do it at a show or whatever. You could get away with that kind of camera because you're not worried about focus directly. It'll just do its own focusing. But I think for a review or for work or whatever, I think a Sony 6300 or maybe 6400 would be just as good. You could go to Sony A7 II one, but I think it's still far overpriced. I really think it was too expensive to begin with. I think it still is too expensive. The only good part is it's a full frame sensor, so you'd actually get a nice broad, wide open shot of things. Anyway, sorry, I'm jumping back here. Andy McPhee says 1.5 TSI worth a lengthy Google around for some issues folk have had with them losing power randomly and kangarooing. 1.4 TSI is still a class engine. 1.5 will be sorted out too. They'll get around to sorting it out, but I just don't think they've admitted to the problem enough. And people are now looking for the kangarooing and they're finding it too. Mark Daly, it tows my 1993 Previa drift car to Mondella with ease and makes a great camper. You see, a SsangYong Rodius is multifunctional. If you can get over the best part of SsangYong Rodius is to be inside looking out, because then you can't see the outside. But it's not a bad car. A Toyota Previa drift car. Previa drift car. Are we thinking about the same car here? You have a Previa drift car. Anyway, I won't go in down that road. I was being polite sitting on my hands, reference to Rodius choice, but Bob has made it okay now. Did it like a yacht and a new Top Gear though? Was it a yacht? I didn't see that one. Oh, it's the new Top Gear. No, I haven't seen it. I've only seen some of those episodes. The one I saw the other night was Chris Harris getting put into the back of a hearse, but I think it was an older one. My daughter, he was picked up by one of the two and then carried over and stuck into the back of a hearse. Chris Harris was, by the other two. And my daughter, who hadn't seen this before, turned around and said, they're bullying that man. She's only 11. Out of nowhere. Just giving, that looks like they're bullying that man. Why are they doing that to that man? She wasn't happy about it. And I don't know how old that episode was. I haven't a clue. But it seems funny. Like they just play it for fun. It's not really car reviews. Oh my God, that coffee's gorgeous. And I didn't have to make it, which is brilliant. Peter Urquhart. Is that how I pronounce that? Urquhart? Hi Peter. John Egan. You're a lucky man, Bob, I know. I heard the kettle going on, followed by your good wife obliging your request. John Egan, New York. You see, it's teamwork around here. If she was doing this, I'd make her coffee as well. So, you give and take. Give and take in a relationship. I'm with the woman for 20... I don't know. 22, 97 to now, whatever, 22, 23 years, something like that. We've been together. honest to God, I couldn't breathe, but she knows what I'm thinking. It's that kind of way. And I'm the same the other way around as well. We literally look at something happening in front of us and the two of us know exactly what the other one is thinking about what's happening right now. So it's it's interesting. But that's what you give and take in a relationship. You just stick with someone, you get to know them, and that's 22 years later, all of a sudden your whole life has passed by and you're still happening. You're still okay with that. And I think that's life for everybody in the world. You just kind of make out what you can of it. You go with the flow. Flow ends, or the stream changes, or the river changes, or the current changes, and you have to go with that one. And yeah, that's kind of what happens as well. Another camera I'm looking out for as well, if anyone's got one, is a Sony X3000. It's like a bullet camera. It's like a GoPro essentially, but it's shaped like a bullet. I'm going to get one of them, I think, because they're actually better than GoPro. A fella showed me his footage the other night from one. And it was really good. And there's a channel I actually follow called Bald and Bankrupt. He's a good channel if you ever want to follow someone who just roams around the world doing stuff. It's cool. It's a better channel than it sounds. He uses his primary camera is a Sony X3000. It really does a great job of getting on with it. Euroman Driver says, great car live vlog. Thanks. Congratulations. Good to have you. Never heard that name before. Bob Spirit Animal says, for Roadrunner. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I never thought of that. That's a good one, yeah. The Singing Shade. Never read that name out before either. Any sign of VW selling off e-golfs on the cheap to make room for the ID3? They have really reduced in price recently. Very recently. Now, this is Irish talking. I thought they went down below 30 grand. Well below, like 26 or 27 grand or something like that. I can't now, don't quote me on the price. I can't remember what they said, but I know the e-golf has definitely gone down in price. The ID3 was built up to be something that was going to be the common man's car, you know, the electric car for everybody. And then it came out with 40 grand, so it's not, it's not the common man's car really. It goes to show how quickly people realise just how expensive electric cars are, just how much money has to be pushed into them for development, for buying the batteries, for installing all the stuff, getting it done, and then putting it on a market and advertising budgets. No, that all has to be paid for. So electric cars, and you're being a little bit ripped off as well, because the incentives for electric cars are on the wrong thing. They should not be incentivizing the people to buy the car, so you shouldn't get the grant. What should happen is that businesses get the grants to put charge points in their businesses. So if you were driving to IKEA tomorrow, which as of a few weeks ago had no charge points. Now I think they put in 4 or 5 charge points in the near future, but they've done this off their own bat. So they've done this because they know that their customers are coming and some of the customers driving electric cars. Now, if you were driving to IKEA and you're in an electric car and you knew that it had 50 charge points, you'd have no problem. You wouldn't even think about it. You just drive on over to IKEA and plug in and go off in and do your shopping and come out and put your seats down and put in the stuff in the back and get a few meatballs and all that, and you come out. So if IKEA were incentivized by, instead, don't give them a grant of $5,000, but actually just say you can claim the VAT back off your electricity bill for a year. You can claim, something that works for them as a business if you put in 50 charge points, and it'll do it. And then all of a sudden, when you're driving your petrol or diesel car to IKEA, and you rock in and you park in your parking space, and the first thing you confront with is an electric charge point in front of you. No special parking space, just 50 charge points, and you can park anything you want there. You'll suddenly realise that, it might not be a bad idea to get electric cars. That's how you incentivize people. You don't incentivize them by saying, here's $5,000 off your car. You're not getting $5,000 off your car. You're giving $5,000 to the car company. They're not giving you $5,000 off the car. You don't even see the grant. Anyway, start hopping forward again. Sorry, I'm answering questions from 3 p.m. So I'm only 10 minutes behind you. I'm alright. Now, see, I'm keeping up today. Hold on. Oh, man. The coffee's good. How's the election going? Anyone got any answers for that one? No? Who's in, who's out, who's dead, who's alive? I have to keep an eye on these things. It really drives me nuts when it's election time and I'm not sure what's after happening. I was like Pierce O'Doherty's in anyway, Longford Westmead, Stafford. Oh, there's a recount on for tomorrow. Looks like some of the candidates are in. 100 votes reserved for Longford Westmead. Rooting through some other tweets very quickly. No idea what that is. Somebody has tweeted me a spreadsheet. Thank you very much for giving me a spreadsheet. I didn't need it, but I have it now. You're very good, thanks. If it was one of you lot. Who did that? No, I don't know. I don't care either. Moving on. Ireland against fascism. That's great. Retweet that. Well done. We're all against that. It's not just Ireland. Seat projections. RT election. Fianna Fáil 39 to 46 seats. Fine Gael 35 to 40 seats. Sinn Féin 36 to 40 seats. Boys, it's going to be a hung parliament or something. We're going to have to do this again, I bet you, next week. Wait to see. Ocean Froggy says, Bob, would you test drive a Toyota hybrid? I have test drive. When it runs out of petrol and stops after battery flat, phone their roadside assist and ask which button to push to turn on the self-charging to get home. Yeah, I know. They get a lot of abuse for the old self-charging thing, and I know it's been banned in Norway or something as being a complete lie. But what do you call it? Like, it doesn't have to be plugged in. You know, I know you can say hybrid, but then there's so many PHEVs and hybrids and mild hybrids, and it just gets blurred into the rest of them. So when you say self-charging, it means I don't have to plug it in and I don't have to do anything else other than just drive the car. But it doesn't mean that just standing still, the car is going to charge itself up again. No car does that in fairness. But like the one you're concentrating on, self-charging hybrid, the worst one of all is mild hybrid, because it means literally nothing. It could be anything from a thing that runs the heating inside the car to a tiny bit of a boost assistance like in the Ford Puma. You know, it's such a broad spectrum of things being mild hybrid. So actually the one you want to be preying on is mild hybrids. You click the like button. I see loads of you click the like button. Thank you very much. 2 of you clicked the not like button. You're not liking the stream. What's wrong with you? Are you not live? Are you not today? Is there something wrong? It's okay. Don't worry about it. I don't mind. Click something though. Whether you click the subscribe button, or you click the PayPal button, or you click the support buttons, or whatever you want to click things, because when you click things, YouTube go, oh yeah, look at that, there's a stream there, that's good. Mark Turner Smith says, electric car range is affected by a lot by load, luggage, passengers, etc. Motorway means not good vehicle for me. Then race mountain bikes and XC racing often drive a lot of kit, often a lot of bikes on racks. It is a big problem. It's a big problem for all cars. Aerodynamics and weight play havoc with range and all kinds of stuff in all cars, including ICE engine cars. The problem is that if I put an elephant on the roof of my Skoda Octavia and I run out of fuel down the road, I just put more fuel and keep going. Just your fuel economy goes up, you just put more fuel in. Whereas electric cars just have this big pause while they put more electricity in. I see advice online on Facebook and stuff for people who bought electric cars and go, the range isn't great now. When I drive the motorway at 120 kilometres an hour, I can only do 200 kilometres. What is the problem? And then they get this advice of going, well, listen, you should only drive at 80 kilometres an hour. You should only drive down the back roads. You know, it's more fun driving on the back roads. That's all balls. What are you talking about? We're going to slow down. I don't think so. The world is getting faster, not slower. So people are going to buy an electric car to replace a diesel or a petrol car, which means they're going to go out on the motorway and do 120, 125, maybe even 130. If an electric car can't do that, well then, you know, you might as well get a bike. You know, we're at nothing. People have to get to work. They have to get there on time. They have to get through traffic. They have to get through all that stuff. We actually need less cars on the road, but the cars that are left need to be highly efficient and able to keep up with what they're able to do right now. Which, if I get into that diesel thing outside the door, that's a 3-litre diesel. I could drive with a full tank of that. I'd have to get a boat, but I could definitely drive to the south of France pretty much on a single tank without stopping, apart from the boat bit. If I took a little ferry over to the UK, I'd drive all the way across the UK, get into France, little top up in the fuel and be gone. Definitely. But if you took an electric car, you'd probably be a couple of days getting there. So long range stuff still has to be worked out. And electric cars in inclement weather, in high winds, all that sort of stuff, they're not as efficient as you may think. Annie McAfee says, in my seemingly never-ending quest to find my next car, which is true, you have tweeted me pictures of absolutely every car you've looked at so far. It's been an interesting and fun ride. I did notice this last week that used Minis are actually very cheap. Not interested in them, but some cracking value. They're brilliant to drive. Minis are a hoot to drive. Pretty much any one of them. But when you get up to the kind of Mini Cooper stuff, God, they're great fun to drive. But when they go wrong, they get very expensive. And they're really hard to work on. I have lifted the bonnet when you lift the whole bleeding front of the car, but I have lifted the bonnet a couple of Minis and you look under and go, how do you even get your hand in there to do stuff? So they don't do what everyone else does. They compact everything into a tiny little spot. So when they go wrong, they just go catastrophically wrong. That wouldn't put me off them, I have to say. I do like a lot of minis. They are very fast. They're great for overtaking. They're a tiny bit solid on the road here and there, but they've always been that way. You would have seen the older video of the older Mini. What was that, an 88 or something, 87? That was great fun, but really solid to drive as well. And you feel like a speck as you drive down the road. When a truck overtakes you on the N7, you can feel the breeze of the truck pushing you over to one side. It's weird. Byron is here. Evening, boys. Love the storm. Up the shinners. I hope you have voted for the change. Let's attack VRT and USC now. I like his thinking, in fairness. VRT is the greatest ripoff that this country has ever instigated on itself, and did it on itself, funny enough. If we didn't have VRT, no one would import an English reg car. Do you know that? Because we would be cheaper than them for cars. Did we ever think of that? No, I don't suppose I have, because I suppose the greed factor kicks in very quickly for the exchequer because of billions of euros of tax that VRT brings in. But if we didn't have it, the car industry would be so much further ahead here. We'd have so many other choices. Don't get me in the high horse about VRT again, for God's sake. And as for universal social charge, that's just a rip-off as well. I remember universal social charge coming in. It was 2000 and... was it 8? Could have been 2008. And it was an emergency tax. It was the emergency thing to top up the banks. That's what was going on. It would only be temporary. It would be gone then. Then they changed the name of it, and it was stuck there ever since. The Singing Shade says, I have VW pushing me hard for sale, and Mrs. thinks it looks the part as it looks like an ordinary car. What's the VW? For sale. Are you talking about the e-Golf? Because it looks like an ordinary car. E-Golf is a great car. The range is a tiny bit short, but you're buying a 5-door, 5-seat hatchback car with a big boot and an electric engine. Like, what's not to like? It's a lovely thing. But it's just, at the moment, the range would concern me, because that range is only ever going to get smaller as the car gets older. You're never going to get more range from that level of batteries. And then the ID3 is going to come and devalue everything, because everyone will want one of them. Jim Dunn says the iPhone 11 Pro Max best camera ever. I believe it is. It's also a €1,500 camera. If I had €1,500, I'd just go out and buy myself a movie camera, a proper one, and use it that way. Much better to spend that kind of money on an actual camera rather than something that is a phone and a camera as well. The reason I was picking iPhone 10 is because, or iPhone X as it's called, at that point the cameras become dual cameras, and they're pretty good. They're really good, and there's built-in stabilization in them as well, so you can walk around with the camera not bouncing so much. But at the same time, if I wanted to stream like I streamed from the Say It gig, I could do it from this camera. And I've actually created a new rig here that I have beside me for holding cameras. It has a mic on board. I can do wireless mics and stuff as well. So I've created a Mojo system for those stream times, but I was thinking more of what I'm supposed to do next, as to which camera I would move towards next. But I think I should go to a camera and not a phone camera, because I have an iPhone 7 camera, and that's pretty good. Ocean Froggy says, Bob, work for a GoPro could be very functional camera, wide, great and low light, handheld mounted on beanbag. You'd have to go for the latest version of the GoPro to get that kind of features though. Some of them are good, some of them are okay, and GoPro is actually alright. I have 2 GoPros, around, older ones. They're around here somewhere, and they're actually pretty good cameras. They're very good, but just the results that this guy was getting from his Sony camera looked like an ordinary camera. Really, really clear, and the audio was brilliant, with no mic quality and nothing on it, and screens and stuff attached. Just looked really good. And I have a couple of GoPros. They do work well, but I love GoPro. They has changed the whole world of making films for me. I've strapped GoPros to the outside of cars. I've had them fall off cars. I've had them fall off drones. I've had them absolutely pounded them, and they still work. Still all in one piece. I even have a GoPro Hero 1 hanging around here somewhere. I don't use it anymore. It got chewed up and spat out by falling off the arse end of a car one time. Mark Daly says, Previa MPV drift car, yes, the one that looked like an egg. Are you kidding? How do you drift? I have to see this car, Mark. You're going to show me. You're going to show me both of them, both the SsangYong and the Previa. Like, how do you... I know how you drift a Previa, but even the thoughts of watching a drift Previa just drifting around would be wild. That'd be mad. You must have a flat suspension in it. Alan Burke says, a straight up question, just a straight question, Scala or Kamak? They're very different cars. Underneath, they're not very different. So engines, gearboxes, chassis and things are all pretty much shared on it. But Kamak is very tall on the road and the Scala is not. It's quite low on the road. So if you have a purpose, for future purposes, for trade-in values, the Kamak is probably going to be worth a tiny bit more, as the SUV market, a small SUV market, has really taken off, and there's quite a selection of cars in it now. It's gone black outside. See, that's why I put the light on. I had the light on since the very beginning, so you wouldn't notice it was on. But it is there. The Kamak will have probably a better trade-in value in the future at some point, but the Scala is actually my favourite sort of car. I kind of like that car. It's just a nice thing. I know a lot of you give out to me for liking that car, but I do. I like the Scala. I just don't like the 1.5. Give it a 1 litre Scala, would be lovely. Hold on, I knew I was going to jump. You know, it's still all these years, and YouTube still hasn't figured out how to do the comments, so they just kind of build up off the screen. Then when I scroll, it hops to the last comment. Really annoying. So many of you watching. This is going to be a really busy day. You must hate the idea of the elections. I've had enough. Elections are out the window. Andy says, I think Bob should do a lifestyle interview with Mark Daly towing the roadies on track and throwing the egg around the shop. That'd be some crack, wouldn't it? I'll stick some cameras in your car. You can take you for a drift. I'll get Mondello shut down for you or something. We'll make a phone call. We shall make that call and see if we can get an empty track day for you to go drifting on. Or I'll come along to a drift day. If people tell me these things are on, I put them in the calendar, I end up going to them. But people don't tell me until it's over. Then I go on to like something like Facebook or Twitter and go, how come you weren't down to drift day? I don't know, it was on. I'm useless at these jokes. I'm useless about finding out these things on my own. I always feel like such an outsider because I don't know. It's like, I didn't know it was on. Where have you been doing? Anyone here own the last and final generation of Seat Toledo? What's wrong with Toledo? They're a nice car. I like Toledo. The last generation of it was pretty good, actually. Saloon one. Was there an estate of a Toledo? I can't remember. Mystic Morris. Oh, Mystic Morris is back. Here we go. Based on your level of this is our spirit animal. Here we go. Based on your level of activity laziness you've explained and bursts of energy, I would say your spirit animal is either a lion or a bear. I like your thinking. Lion or a bear. I suppose lion would be pretty good in that you lie down and go asleep and then you wake up and somebody feeds you. I like the idea of that. That sounds good. Just eat every once in a while, roar a bit, have a scratch, bit of a sniff, go back to sleep. Sounds good to me. That's the idea. That's like ultimate lion effort. Don't think I could stand the flies so much of the lion, but the rest of it's okay. Lion. I was once described, this is true story, a fella described me as a alpha male silverback gorilla. So I don't know where that came out of. He just reckoned it was just the way I was walking or something. I don't know. Oh yeah, one of them alpha male types. I don't know if that's true or not, or what that means. Jim Dunn. I'm drinking my coffee. In case you're listening on podcast right now, that was me slurping coffee. You know I don't cut anything. I just put it all up as is. Jim Dunn. I don't know if all you guys are interested, but our outgoing Minister for Transport, Shane Ross, is in trouble and may not get elected. Wow. A fella who nothing about cars is not going to get elected again. Now, the only thing about Shane Ross was he was actually an independent TD. Now, as much as I didn't like his half-cooked sort of policies that he had this idea, he'd have an idea and he'd just do it and then he'd hope for the best. But he didn't think things through absolutely probably all the way to the end. But at the same time, he was an independent, which is unusual for an independent to be the Minister for Transport. He wasn't on Fine Gael's side and was actually quite well outspoken as someone in opposition. But as usual, once the opposition person is put into government positions, they end up kind of like, no, I can't say that, and I can't say this, and I can't say something else. And so they kind of end up being useless. So he ended up being a sort of a whip and stick for quite a number of ministers out there, and that didn't really work for him. And he's not as popular back in his own area as he was before, so he is in trouble. Last time I looked at him, he was like 8% of the votes, which won't be enough for him to get elected. There will be a few upsets this time out. You will see people who are otherwise easily electable people will fall by the wayside. And had Sinn Féin actually ran double, I think Stanley here in this area got enough votes to elect 2 Sinn Féin people he'll have enough left over that will go on to an independent candidate. Now, if he'd have run two, or if the Sinn Féin had run two candidates in Laois Offaly, they would have got them both elected. So anyway, that's just me now. Tom G, we don't often get the old spare idiots turning up. We don't usually, but Tom G wanted me to take my top off. Tom, I guarantee you don't want to see that. That's not going to be something that's going to be good for an image, either mine or yours. So I don't think so. Johnny Dub says, crappy days. What about crappy days? And crappy days? I missed something there, no? Days were... Yeah, they were crappy. Yeah, that's true. Ocean Foggy. Mild hybrid could be a paid of AA batteries in the glove box. Might be around emissions. Get around emissions. So, mild hybrids are pretty easy to explain. So, when there's a thing called a Kyoto Agreement, and there's also other agreements in place, the Paris Agreement, and all these other ones about environmental issues, right? So, car companies overall have to get their fleet down below 95 grams of CO2. That's the golden point, right? Some car companies are not going to get there. Other car companies will get there by employing mild hybrids. So you say it's a mild hybrid, the car only puts out 105 grams CO2, so you make enough mild hybrids that gets your whole fleet down to that level and you don't pay such big fines. But once you reach 94.9 grams of CO2, you stop making electric cars. That's what's after happening now to a lot of Kias and Hyundais and even the Peugeot stuff's coming out. They're not making enough of them because they're very close to the 95 grams. They don't want to go under it, because if they go under it, it will change the overall CO2 levels and everyone will be looking for 94 grams of CO2. It's all hoodwinkery. It's all a conspiracy, really. But mild hybrids. The one I had, the Volvo XC90 B5, was the best mild hybrid I'd had in a very long time, because you were able to set the heating controls inside the car to defrost the window. That was all like an EV, same thing. And it gave this assistance boost thing when you're starting off. It was very, very clever. I really liked it. What's the 3 litre diesels outside the door? It is a 3 Series, a BMW 3 Series, a 330D estate in a sort of a slate grey with black alloys. It's the best car in the world. Oh, I nearly said that the way the lad says it. Yeah. Byron says, Bobster, the amount of people I get in taxis, 3 last night, and ask, is this a hybrid? By this stage, just say no. That's the only name in general public's head, hybrid. Yes, true, hybrid. Everyone thinks everything's a hybrid. If BEVs are hybrids, according to some people. Like, it just depends whether you're, what's your mentality, speak on cars. An older man was at a market recently. We're down and we're getting some sourdough bread and stuff down in Mount Rogers little market. There was an older man standing there, and he didn't recognise me, but another guy at the same stall knew who I was and said to the old man, "Now, you had a question there about cars. He'll be able to answer your question about cars." And the man, who had to be in his 70s, said, "Should I buy one of them all electric cars?" And you go, "Well, how many miles do you drive?" "I just drive from here to the farm and back." And I go, "Farm, right, farm? No, you shouldn't. No, whatever car you have, though, just hold on to it, it'll be fine." He goes, I told you, electric cars are crap." And he walks off, and that was it. That was the whole... People's perception of what's coming, what's happening, and how long it's going to take is so distorted. We seem to think of everything happening in the next month instead of everything happening in the next 10 years. You could buy a car today and keep it for 30 years and it still wouldn't be banned. It's only the ban of straight diesels and straight petrols from 2030 that we're all talking about when it comes to cars. But that's 2030. It's 9.5 years from now. So chill, be alright. Sharon says thanks Sharon, to get rid of Tom G. Andy McAfee was on the money there. I still wasn't taking my top off though, whatever he said. Mark Turner Smith, Top Gear, current or with the famous... Whoop, jumped forward again. I hate you. Anyway, alright, sorry. Top Gear, current or with the famous tree, only ever been about being silly, hasn't been factual car program since the mid to late 90s, with Vicky Butler Henderson, Quentin Wilson, etc. preferred TG of old. We have fifth gear when it comes to kind of car reviews, but I don't think it ever really gelled on fifth gear. I always thought there was a bit of competition, and now they've gotten rid of Tiff Nadell, and I think they ejected him from it as well, was the other part. I don't know why. Tiff was always fairly reliable. I actually kind of liked Tiff's reviews of stuff. it's hard to say where that's going to go. I don't think Top Gear current, from what I've seen of it, and I haven't seen every episode, it can be funny. But it's still funny in a very laddie way. And it's still funny in a very larking around, let's do something stupidly extreme for the crack and just kind of crash stuff into something else and get flooded, and there's a bit of setting up to do, and it's settling into themselves. I'm sure it'll get there in the end, but and BBC won't let it die, but BBC is having a reduction in their license fee, and there's a lot of talking on the moment about getting rid of the license fee entirely in the UK, which changes BBC's position completely. That is completely funded from that position and from its worldwide sales of things. But if that goes, it's hard to see where they're going to take it. If Top Gear hasn't got the patience to be successful, they need success overnight. Amazon, on the other hand, for the Grand Tour for the 3 that's on there, which was currently called Seaman or something it's called. I haven't seen that one yet. That will go nowhere, but they're on a retirement policy. I don't think that's ever going to really pick up beyond where it is right now. Clarkson is fast approaching 60. There's only so much time left before these people just kind of go, well, look, I've had enough and I don't want to do anymore. I'm going to make a farming program, or James May will go off and build something again. They've all had careers separately from that. So, but I just don't see a good future for the current run of Top Gear, because the two lads, Chris Harris is a modern journalist. That's fine. That's his gig. That's his job. He does that. But the other two lads are like comedians and, a cricket player. And their main focus is not being a motoring journalist. So they've got their little parachutes on their back and they're ready to bail out if they need to be. Vicky Butler Henderson, I met her at a couple of things once upon a time. She's really nice and she's lovely to chat to. Quentin Wilson, I met him last year at the Electronomus York. He is identically the posh git. The fella you would expect to be, I don't have me money, I'm just going to get the Jag all warmed up. He's that guy, you expect him to be that. So he feels nice. He was nice enough to all the same. Ocean Frog, he just made a donation as well. Thank you very much. You're very kind. To the Super Chats. It's a great name, isn't it? Super Chat. I like that. But I don't know where Top Gear is going to go. Andy McPhee says, yeah, Vicky Butler Henderson and co finished on Top Gear in 98. Wow, 98. When it died, and half of the presenters went to UK Channel 5 for Fifth Gear. Fifth Gear just never really got it for me, though. Some of the things were okay. When Tom Wookie Ford was on it, with Johnny Smith, when they were younger, it was okay. But then Tom got slim. And I know I met Tom at a York recently as well, as Say It thing. And he's really nice as well. He's a lovely guy, but he doesn't do. He's not a car guy anymore. You're not really, not in the way he was. And he does his own series and stuff with Johnny Smith, who is also got his own YouTube channel going now as well, of course. And they're pounding away trying to make as much money as they possibly can. That's cool. But where any of these car shows, they're going to end up here. They're going to end up on YouTube. I don't think any car company or anyone wants to support a car show anymore, a proper one that would actually review cars. I don't know if the audience is big enough out there to watch a strictly car review show. I think people want to be entertained, and unfortunately, Clarkson, Hammond and May and that version of Top Gear jaded every other car show on earth. Every one of you look at the ones, even the foreign ones, even the weird yokes out in Russia, they're all kind of clumsy and funny and stupid and lads crashing things and stuff. They're not really reviews anymore. The reviews all happen here on YouTube. You could subscribe to the review channel right here. Although mine are kind of funny sometimes as well. Ocean Froggy says, Bobby, Nero and Kona can get 430 kilometres at 120 kph, no problem, on motorway in summer, and 390 in winter, just back from Donegal in one hop, and had 100 kilometres range left. M3 should be similar. Pretty much, yeah. They were the ones I give. The Hyundai Kona was the one that I drove down to see the relatives in Galway. Didn't charge and came back on the same charge back home. One charge down, one charge back. Didn't really have to stop. Did it again in another Hyundai one or Kia one. I didn't start with a full charge, just drove straight down, and on the way back up we stopped in this petrol station. Can I just point out as well, anyone building a petrol station, why don't they put charge points in petrol stations when they're building them? But besides that, the one that's just outside of Galway is in the absolute back end of the car park, way down the darkest corner of it. It was really threatening to be off down there on your own. Like, it's weird. Don't know why they put them so far away. I mean, they don't emit anything, right? They're not they're not poisonous or anything. Alex Theodore says, are you reviewing the Suzuki Swift anytime soon? Did I not review a Suzuki Swift at some point? Are they nice to drive if you had any experience with them? I have. They've been here a couple of times. I did a review of Suzuki Swift, I'm sure. I don't know, so many reviews. Sorry, Alex. But if I didn't, I have driven them around Mondello a few times. Not very economical. The fuel tank is too small on them. They're nice to drive, but they're a bit small. And they're Suzuki, so they'll go around the earth before they'll break down or anything. But they're a nice little car. I think if you're starting out driving or you're retiring into something, I think the Swift would do quite well for you. And it's kind of fun to drive, but I just feel that the fuel economy wasn't great on them, and they needed a bit of work, a suspension and kind of interior fit and finish. It felt a little bit old-fashioned. Suzuki tend to be a very conservative Japanese company. They make very good cars that look great. Look at Jimny, never driven a Jimny. And now they're not selling it anymore. They just went, nah, had enough of that. Not selling anymore of them. That's it. It's gone. Why would you do that? Anyway, I like Swift. Not a bad car. It'll be reliable, cheap to tax, cheap to insure, cheap to run, but not cheap in fuel. It's easy to service the things. They're nice, but they're very conservative. Now, how do I pronounce that name? Rinky Stinky Bump Bump Poo Poo. Was that a name up on your own? Did you sit at home and think about that when you're setting it up? Because, to get a YouTube account, you have to have a Gmail address. So you now have Rinky Stinky Bump Poo Poo at gmail.com. Just telling you. Is there any known problems from the new 530e? Trading in my 2014 520d in June and thinking of going for the 530e. Right. There's a number of questions in that. Number one, why would you want to trade in a 520d from 2014 on a PHEV version? Just wondering, are you a high mileage person? Are you normally driving a diesel car for over, say, 20,000 kilometers a year? Because then the PHEV is going to break the bank on you. Because it's petrol, remember. And very, very few people actually plug a PHEV in every day. And you will have to plug it in every day. You might even have to plug it in every journey, because it only does about 30 to 50 kilometers on one electric tank. So when the tank is full, it'll go to that. Or you're buying a 2017 one, a 530e. There's no known problems. It's going to be probably more reliable actually than diesel, because petrol engines tend to be much easier to run. And it's coupled to electric hybrid system, so it works pretty good. And all them hybrids are actually okay. If you live about 30 kilometers from your work, you could drive there nearly all on electricity, plug it in the other end and drive all the way home later and never actually turn on the engine in the first place. In real world stuff, you could do that. But in reality, when you're standing on a cold, wet, miserable evening and you pulled up in your car and you get out and you go, I don't want to plug it in anymore. Fed up plugging it in. You only do it for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then you just run as a hybrid. If you can get, there's a great phrase here, and I think Cross 13 came up with it. If you can get a PHEV to work for you every day properly, you probably should have bought an electric car anyway. Just saying. Andy says, lion as a spirit animal means you are Peugeot as a spirit car though. Can't have that, because I can't even pronounce that. I was listening to radio yesterday, and there's an Irish ad for the 208 coming out, and the man says Peugeot in the ad on the radio, and he's paid to say that. He said Peugeot, so I'm right. No, because the English people say Peugeot, and then somewhere between the two is the French version. If you actually listen to French people say the word, it's like Peugeot. It's both. So even they go both. So no one knows how to pronounce it really. I've even met Mr. Peugeot, the persons behind it, the family behind it. I met them as well. They were at a launch. Don't remember what the launch was. TS says, hi Bob, what do you think of the Mercedes B-Class, the last model? A lot of high-spec 2019 plates at tempting prices. It won't be a big seller. It's a good car. B-Class is actually not a bad car, particularly in automatic and petrol. It's just a really sensible little kind of run-around town car that will carry the family as well. If you're getting a diesel one, be cautious, because it tends to be a bit clattery. The diesel one is a bit noisy, but the petrol one is actually quite nice. Really light in its feet, lovely little car, fit all the family in it, plenty of room for 5 in it too. It's a nice yoke, yeah, not a bad car. If you can get a good deal in it, no problem with 2019 ones. If you can get a good deal, it's just not popular because people are going for mini SUVs or small SUVs, and it's in the same market, but it isn't one. So it's exactly the same size as the small SUV stuff, but it's just not a small SUV. It's kind of a 5-door hatchback. Alistair McNair says, enjoying the show while eating a Sunday roast with the family. Just the whole family watches the show. That's what you want. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm still answering questions about 10 or 15 minutes ago. I'm catching up on you though, I think. So you're slowing down. What's wrong with you? Wake up. Ask more questions. I might beat you one of these days. End up having to sit here for 15 minutes and just talk to the camera without actually having any questions at all. Mark Turner Smith says, drive for 1.5 hours each way, 2 mountain bike XC races. Often my car is sat in the field while at the event for about 5 hours. Practice laps 1 hour 30 minutes to 1 hour 45 minute race. Unless they design mobile chargers, stuck. This is true. This is the problem facing all electric cars, because electricity might be everywhere, but we do use cars in ways that doesn't bring us near electricity. We do it too. Same here when you go for a family day out, we could end up going to places, Wicklow or, some field, some open day, some a market thing or whatever, and it's down in Kilkenny in the middle of nowhere. And when you get there, you kind of go, geez, I don't have enough to get back now. We're going to stop for a very long lunch. You're going to end up being obese after having let your car for long, because you have to stop everywhere for cups of coffee and muffins and sandwiches and stuff just to pass the hour and a half or 2 hours of charging that's required to keep going. Weather still changing. I still see the birds going by at 6,000 miles an hour. Did you see that tweet this morning where your man came from New York to London on a British Airways flight in 5 hours and 55 minutes or something? Because of the tailwind, they were 2 hours early. It was really fast because of the tailwind going back. But then the planes going the opposite direction would be running into that wind, so they wouldn't be going as fast at all. But definitely helped them all last night. No major damage, but there is some flooding in around Laois and Portlaoise, so be very careful doing that. I'm going to check in on the unbelievable result. I see it here straight away. My first tweet that I've come across. It's going to be fun. Who has won and who has lost? I bet there's an awful lot of faces stuck into hands at the moment, worrying as to where they went wrong. Kildare South, Sinn Féin has done it there as well. Sinn Féin is really, I think, pretty much all of them got elected. That's going to be a fun conversation to have, isn't it? It really is. I can't believe that the current government let it get away to that point. They really did. They did nothing for housing. If anyone's out there looking at housing, I know I was in the same situation many years ago looking for a house myself. And it's just coming full cycle. We're just back into full cycle. But the problem is most of the minister TDs are landlords as well, so they don't want to do anything about rent. They don't want to do any good solutions. You've got that problem. You've got health. You've got security problems. You've got all kinds of problems. They had an embargo on hiring new Gardaí for 5 years or something there. So, what do you expect is going to happen? The criminals have gotten stronger. We've gotten weaker. And now we have people who don't come outside for anything, Mary Lou MacDonald is also elected. Dublin Bay North, don't know, not saying nothing there. I'm scrolling through Twitter if anyone's trying to keep up with me. Sinn Féin just seems to have got elected everywhere. That's just going to be a big one. It's going to be a change this year for sure. Anyway, Ocean Fargus says vote VW for diesel powered AA batteries costing €4 each out to grant. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Saw the picture of the BMW Touring posted the other day. Nice. That's the one. That's the BMW Touring I'm talking about. It's still outside the door. It's going back tomorrow. I'm going to miss it. But I'm replacing it with a Peugeot 508 Estate, which is probably the best looking car on the market today. Just that small steering wheel in Peugeot still drives me up the wall, as does the touchscreen things, which really annoys me. Brian Evans says, hi, any news on the E208's return to France? Yeah, they kind of got turned around and sent home again because there's something wrong with them. Now they're coming back. They're back, I think, as far as I know. They're back, and we're going to get another spin at them. There is a launch of them coming up. I'm not sure I can go on it because I have an international trip the next day. But yeah, a lot of international trips coming up as well, which is okay. I'm alright with that. I try not to do too many because they just suck the life out of you. I mean, job time. You're just stuck on a plane or in an airport. You're just always trying to find time to work, and it's just really hard. Great show, great entertainment. Thank you, Ocean Froggy. You're very kind. Star Joe says bonjour. Bonjour, monsieur. Comment allez-vous? Annie McAfee says TV license fee is such a load of nonsense. A company broadcast with no encryption, so anyone can receive it. It has its own laws to force everyone to pay, or else. Imagine Sky tried that, scrap it. But then, where does in the case of BBC, how did they fund themselves? How did they remain totally independent? Now, slightly different for RTE here in this country. They get our license fee, but they also get advertising. So they have ads playing on their channel, so they get it twice. So I get it in this country. You'd go, hang on a second, why am I paying twice? I'm paying, and yet I have to watch ads, and yet I have no say over what kind of programming you're showing me. There's no say over it. But the BBC has such a diversity of things. You can always find something either to watch on BBC or listen on a podcast or on their radio, BBC Six Music, all these things that are there that are funded by the license fee and through worldwide advertising. Because there is, don't forget, BBC do show stuff on the thing called BBC World, which does have ads. So they do have advertising, just don't do it in Britain. Alan Burke says the new Focus is funny looking. I agree, and that's actually a good description of it. As a car reviewer, I would say you're right by saying kind of funny looking. And it's a bit like Fargo. Did you ever watch the movie Fargo where man says he's kind of funny looking? It is. From certain angles, the Focus is a weird looking car. It's much wider looking than it actually is inside as well, which is kind of strange. But the ST one is really good. I mean, it's a great middle ground between RS and just an ordinary Focus. Just a great car. Really good, fun car to drive. I really enjoyed that. Scrolling back up because it skipped forward again as per usual. No need for a Gmail address for YouTube account. Really? Do you not need a Gmail account? I thought you set up a Gmail. I don't know. It's so long since I did it now. Years since I set up all my email addresses, all my private ones, my personal ones, and the kind of public ones I put up as well. And of course this one, which is a totally different email address. Than I don't use it as an email address at all, but it's there, and I do have a Gmail account attached to it. Stuart says, hi Bob, what's your opinion on a 2013 Audi S6 4-litre V8? What a car. Last of the V8s as well. Not going to see too many more V8s in the future, I don't think. But it's a great car. Audi S6 is a mix. It's not RS6, so it's an Audi A6 that they've adapted to have the S engine, to put faster engines, different suspension, different steering column, I think. It's definitely different steering motor and stuff in as well. There's a bit of fly-by-wire stuff going on the throttle and on, just the throttle. Brakes and clutch and stuff. You get the manual one is really good. Automatic would be just as good by DSG. Great car. You'll never see the end of that thing because it's a V8. That engine will probably outlast the shell of the car as well. But good fun to drive, real steeper yokes. Good idea, if you really want to be clever about it, removed any of the badges off it so it doesn't say S8 in the back, and just put on, have the big exhaust on the back and stuff. But great car to drive. Good fun. Quattro as well, which is always good fun. I think the real Quattros in the S6, but not in the S3. I think it's the other Quattro. Anyway, Rinky Stinky Bump Poo Poo says, thanks for your advice, Bob. God, that's a lot. That's a big username. It's very hard to deal with that username. But I like it. It's something different. I don't like the idea of PHEVs, PHEVs, where you say you've left on electric only as, say, 120 kph, and then it switches to petrol engine, and your stone cold engine and turbo instantly thrown into speed usage. It's got to be quite hard on them. I think anything, starting a car at all is always hard on an engine. I don't know about the PHEV hopping along in electric mode and suddenly starting up in petrol. I'm not sure whether they preheat they must do something. You couldn't just start an engine to 120 kilometers an hour without some sort of heat system running into it, or being pre-started, or just ticking over for a bit before it get up to temperature. It'd be really dangerous in a strange sort of way. You do serious harm to an engine if that was true. I'm sure they tested that though. 5-star Joe says, nice jumper, Bob. It's just a great jumper. I don't even know what logo that is, but it's just a great jumper. Stuart says, thinking of trading in my Audi A8 3-litre diesel. As for my annual mileage is going to drop massively due to retirement, and looking for that thrill. Thrill of what? Did you ask another question? No. Is this the S6? Yeah, it is. Sorry, I was trying to associate which one was which. So this is the S6 you're talking about. Definitely. You're still in the Audi realm, so you still know your way around the car very well, but it's an S6, so you'll be able to leave everything standing. It handles very well. It's an enormous yoke, but actually very chuckable in the corners. It'd have no problem hanging on. That Quattro feel, that Quattro vibe, the whole thing is really good. I did an older video than you're looking at now, would be the S6 video I did down at a hotel once upon a time, and drove the shite over it. It was great crack. Had good fun. Had to get fuel in and everything. Very tempted. Be tempted. Buy it. Don't think about it. Go, because time runs out and you go, don't know whether I should, whether I shouldn't. Then you go, oh damn, I should have did this. The only decisions you'll ever regret in your life is the ones you say no to. There's a phrase for you forever. Hold on to that in your head, because you never regret when you say yes. Never. Every time you say yes, you learn something new, you do something new, you adventure in new ways. Always say yes. If you say no, is a time when you look back and go, no, I should have said yes. That's all that ever happened. You end up regretting it. So always say yes. In a weird sort of way, you never regret saying yes. Obviously not doing anything illegal, but besides that. Honest Truth says, hi Bob, would you buy a Lexus IS 300H hybrid with 100k on the clock, or a hybrid for that matter with 100k on the clock? Cheers Bob, Neil from New York, UK. Lexus I'd have no problem with. Regular as clockwork. Those cars are just like petrol engines as normal. You can service them yourself. They're really straightforward to look at. I'd be looking more at the condition of the car. Lexus cars tend to be looked after quite well because they're bought by people who don't necessarily want to drive a lot of mileage. They're usually kind of, I don't know the phrase, but well-to-do people who understand the climate, the environment. They want something a little bit different. They don't want to buy a Beamer or an Audi or Mercedes. They make a decision, and that's what a Lexus is. And the Lexus is a car that someone decided on. They not just pick it off a list and went, let's take a Lexus IS 300H. They actually sat down and went, I wanted 300H because X, Y, and Z. So that kind of car is going to come with a decent little sort of history attached to it, and you're going to find someone who really liked looking after cars and bought that for you. So if you have a chance to buy it, I wouldn't necessarily worry about the mileage on it. Once the time belt is done, once the service history is okay, and the general condition of the car is okay, they don't tend to rust. Lexuses tend to last. Do you say Lexuses or Lexi? Well, they tend to last forever when people buy them, and people tend to. The problem with Lexus is people buy them and hold on to them for 15 years, and then they just go buy another Lexus. So that's always been Lexus's problem, when people buy them and don't change them. They hold on to them forever because they like them so much. So I'd have no problem. Just check the history on it, make sure it's okay. But Lexus, I'd have no issue with reliability wise. Great cars. Great show again, Bob. Cheers. Thanks always from Froggy. You're very kind for dropping in, my man. Trevor, just on the 530e, if you use it as a hybrid, what kind of litres per 100 kilometres they give? I was looking at them myself. They're hard enough on fuel. You have to remember that if it's an E, so if it's a PHEV car, what they've done is they've taken a big battery and they put it under the back seat. The battery weighs 75 kgs to 100 kgs. That's a person. Right, that's another human being you're going to carry around with you in the car the whole time. So if you don't charge it up, then you're going to end up in a position where you're hauling this battery around with you the whole time, and it's not really doing a whole lot. It's just assisting the engine every once in a while, like a normal hybrid. And in that case, you should just bought a normal hybrid which comes with a smaller battery. So like the Toyotas and stuff that are out there, the Corolla hybrids and all, are actually quite light batteries. They don't have the big PHEV ones. If you look at what Ford are doing with the Mondeo Estate, PHEV and that yoke, big bump in the boot, trying to fit in more batteries. The batteries are really heavy. You're carrying around another great big yoke with you. So fuel economy when they're not plugged in is pretty average. And I'm talking about, like, you might as well have just bought a 2-litre petrol, like, and leave it at that. But 7 litres per 100 kilometres, 6.5. Better off buying a diesel if you want to go that route, or buy a straight petrol, or buy a proper BEV, a battery electric car. Thanks Bob, love the good inspirational quote. You see, always thinking of quotes, boys. I live by that one, to be honest. I've always said yes to pretty much everything, unless I'm just too busy to do something. Then you have to kind of go along, you have to make a decision. But generally speaking, just say yes when somebody asks you questions, and just deal with it. The consequences of saying yes is the problem. Reference the PHEV starting at cold speed, taking oil circulation, etc., the whole shebang. I can't see them burning the low battery capacity, heating up both coolant and oil and in circulation via pumps. Imagine the minus 5 degrees Celsius out of electricity and boom, ignition. That's what I'm thinking. If you're in a PHEV and you're hopping along the road and it's like minus 5, it's been that way all night, the engine hasn't started up, you're driving along, and then all of a sudden the engine starts up from cold at 120 kilometers an hour. That doesn't make a lot of sense. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. That sounds like the whole sump would come off the bottom of the battery or bottom of the car at some point. I'll have to look into that. I'll have to find an engineer who can answer that question for me. I'll find that out, though. That's a name I never heard before. Prince and Plowman. Trevor, I get 42 to 44, I think it's MPG, from my 520i G30. I wouldn't be bothering with anything electric hybrid for a good few years yet. You see, if you start comparing like for like, standard petrols, standard diesels versus these kind of mild hybrids, PHEVs and stuff, the fuel economy isn't actually much different. Not a whole lot. But the big difference is, in a PHEV and a hybrid at very low speeds in heavy traffic, often the engine never starts. You just kind of creep along behind everything else in front of you. So air pollution goes down. So that's a good thing. But generally speaking, fuel economy is pretty much the same. Kieran Heaven says, hi Bob, my old chestnut. Thanks, my old chestnut. Why us diesel 134 and petrol 141 and a barrel of oil is about $65? Confused. Petrol prices have very little to do with the actual crude oil prices. So crude oil goes up and down all the time. Petrol stations would tell you that there's the lag. So the crude oil rises and the petrol prices rise later on and then they fall later on. That's lies. I've seen petrol prices go up the day that a barrel of oil goes up. Petrol prices rise. So it's a lie. And then they take forever to come back down again. They may never actually go back down. They'll go down by 1 or 2 cents. Petrol and diesel is very expensive at the moment. It has been that way, and I'm telling you, by 2030, I would envisage petrol here being €2 per litre. I really wouldn't rule that out. I really wouldn't. I can remember it turned into €1 per litre, so it's definitely going to head its way up towards €2 per litre in the near future because, it's a commodity. It goes up and down the whole time. I would expect electricity prices to rise along with that, so I really wouldn't rule out energy prices going up in all directions. But crude oil prices has very little to do. The price of petrol is based on crude oil, but it's also based on tax. Nearly 80% of the price of petrol is actually a tax that you pay the government. Did you know that? I mean, straight away, if petrol was €1 per litre, 80 cents of it goes to the government, 20 cents goes to the petrol station. So no, just so you know. Niall McHugh, I think it might be slightly over 80%. Niall McHugh, you made a video about saying yes a couple of years ago. That's correct. Always pops into my head every now and again. Great little lift. See, I like that. Just always say yes to things. Just say yes to whatever's going on. Don't be afraid. Being afraid is what stops you succeeding. Just being afraid of success, being afraid of who you are and what you want to do. Just go do it and worry about it later. Nobody will remember you. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what you look like. Nobody really cares what way you dress. You're just you, and you just be whatever you want to be, and that's what makes you different, or what makes you a human being, essentially. If we all dressed the same, it'd be terribly bloody boring, wouldn't it? If we all looked the same, all did the same thing, all worried about how we look in the face of social media. God, I don't want to put that on social media for fear that someone sees it. That's true. Who cares? Nobody's going to remember it anyway. That's what Donald Trump does. He says enough mad shit that nobody cares what he's saying anymore. They go, "What, did you hear what he said?" No, look, he said something else. He just keeps talking until it goes away. That's all. Is there a review of the M135 on the way soon? I don't know if that's actually after working out. There was something really wrong with an SD card that I had in my camera, so I lost a jackload of footage from a couple of reviews, so I'm not sure. I might have to do a text review on that one instead. Leave it with me. I'm still sorting through some of the footage there. Mark Turner Smith, do you think car manufacturers could get around the ban selling of petrol and diesel cars by putting hybrid on no matter how? Yeah, that's what they're going to do. Mild hybrids are not banned. Hybrid is not banned. PHEVs are not banned. BEVs obviously aren't banned. It is straight diesels, straight petrols. That's the only things that's going to be banned for sale. Doesn't mean that they won't be made. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of the car you own today. Future sales, so anything from 2030 that is a straight diesel, straight petrol cannot be sold. In other nations, doing ICE bans go with hybrids, including the ban of manufacturers will abandon development. That's what's happening as well. UK market alone dropping out will add production costs to the rest of Europe if they don't. Correct. Johnny Dub, Bob, why are manufacturers able to just walk away from obvious security flaws, VW transporters and transits being targeted, drill a hole in the door and manipulate the latch? Terrible designs. Because the consumer has no power in that respect. In America, they can do a thing called a class action lawsuit. That's where if 50 of us are affected by my car being broken into, the 50 of us can take one court case against the company. It's called a class action lawsuit. And it's very, very common in America. You get 10 to 15 people, it becomes a class action, and they go after them. And that's why Americans get paid out or they're paid off or whatever they need straight away very quickly, because they're terrified of class actions. We can't do it here. So if 50 of us are affected by something, we have to take 50 different cases. That's 50 solicitors, it's 50 court cases, it's 50 court dates, it's all of that nonsense. So they get away with murder here to some degree in Ireland and Europe because we don't have class action lawsuits. So that's kind of why. Cheers, Plough and Barton said, thanks, Bob. See you soon. We'll get some Slán, lad. Thank you very much. Most welcome, Trevor. You're all saying goodbye to each other. That's brilliant. You're also good because we have reached the 4 p.m. It is 4 p.m. already. Would you believe that was the quickest 2 hours of the entire week? It really does fly by, I have to say. This is really so fast. And it's been brilliant. You will find me on the Ray Darcy show very soon. I think that's going to be next week. Maybe it's the week after, I forget. I was on Midlands 103 a few days ago. I'll be on Midlands 103 again. A couple of other radio stations are interested as well. There's a podcast coming out with me on it from Aviva. I don't know when that's coming out. I'm not sure about that one. And there will be more talks coming soon to a roadshow version around into an area near you. So if you're in Ireland, we will be touring. We are being asked to tour in the UK as well, and we're doing a couple of other years. I'm going to a show called Revolution in Amsterdam very soon. If you're at that, I'll see you there. And next week is going to be just busy flat out as per usual. Look after one another, will you? For God's sake, be here next week when we do this all again for another 2 hours on the Sunday. It's always great crack having you along. It's the fastest 2 hours out of bleeding week, and I love it. I wouldn't be without it now at this stage. Thank you everyone for dropping in. Like I say, look after one another. Hit the subscribe button whenever you can, and use the support buttons all you want. Again, one more time, this is the best part of the Sunday service. This is the end of the Sunday service. Thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, I will see you on the far side.